And streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia. Bills and the Sabres and the Amherst. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Gene's a big timer, a social misfit. Clueless to the title of the biggest buskeg hits. Chuck Munchie's goons have the last say. So thanks for your time, Mr. Mayo. Danger likes his cold ones and he likes his bears. But this is Rochester, cute Francesa.
Oh, who cares?
He's critical of Sean, he's critical of Alan. Of course he married Sandy, cause she's Italian. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Gino, I've already got people asking me what the temperature in our studio is, and you know what? I can't even be bothered with it because it is a Victory Monday in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. You know how we like to start off a week when the Bills get that win, and a playoff win no less, against the Broncos. We start the week with some Bruno Martino. Oh, hell yeah. Kick your feet up. Enjoy this. What do you think, Mafia? What do you think? That's right.
It could be 45 degrees in here, Danger. I don't care. You hear that music. The Bills put away a good team, but certainly somebody that you shouldn't have had any sweat over. And by the time it was midway through the third quarter, you knew the Bills had this one.
I mean, at worst, the worst feeling you had was maybe, okay, shootout, let's go. Like after they scored with their opening drive, the worst feeling you had yesterday was, all right, shootout. Like never once did it enter your mind that, oh boy, Denver's going to give them problems, right? Like they let up that first touchdown. It happened quick. Clearly somebody, lost Franklin in their assignment. It was just sloppy. But after that, the way the defense responded, and when you hear them after the game, they're feeling themselves right now, Gino. They gave up, I want to say, like 100 yards from that point where they gave up the touchdown until early in the fourth quarter. Just 154 yards the entire rest of the game after they gave up that first drive touchdown.
Yeah, it wasn't like Bo Nix was bad. I thought Bo Nix did as well. Mike Catalana brought up an interesting point and was talking to him that basically his receivers kind of let him down, sort of like
a lot of drops.
Yeah, you could see it's a Denver team that almost like how when Josh Allen was there, like, boy, Josh Allen in Houston, you need to get the guy some help. You have Courtland Sutton, who is excellent, but everything else in that offense is a little suspect.
And not to get off track for a second, but since you brought that up, because I think you hear a lot of that when blame assessment happens after a playoff team loses. Like, you heard a lot about, well, the Chargers, Justin Herbert, look who he's throwing to. Anybody not named Lad McConkey is a slappy. And boy, if only Bo Nix didn't have, if only he had receivers around. Jaden Daniels is literally throwing to Diami Brown. There is something to a guy like Josh Allen elevating the play of a Khalil Shakir over the course of 18 games.
Point well taken. Is that sure? If you just dropped any other quarterback, what does Khalil Shakir and everybody else in this offense?
I guess what I'm saying is what Justin Herbert and what Bo Nix are going to have to learn if they want to be truly considered elite in their careers is you have to elevate the play of those around you. You can't accept the dropped passes. And eventually you can take a guy like Khalil Shakir, a 5th-round pick that would be a wide receiver 1 on 0 teams in the NFL, and elevate him to a threat, somebody you have to account for, which is what Josh Allen has done with the Buffalo Bills.
I love when people reach out to us. Whenever regulars Timmy texted me. This was 2:25 yesterday when it's 10-7, okay? Didn't Danger say he wasn't worried about this game? He's the jinx whenever he says that. I don't know. Like, it's not the jinx. What
Oh,
are you
we
worried
were
about?
right. I mean,
what are you
nobody cares when you're right. They just want to tell you when you're wrong. And even when you're right, they still want to tell you you're wrong, according to Timmy here. Look, I wasn't really – I said 28-17, win and cover. I mean, you had the same kind of thing.
I had 30-13.
Yeah, I mean, you had the same kind of outlook for the game. I mean, the real test is going to come moving forward. Now, this was fun, but this is familiar territory for this team. They've done it 5 straight years now. They've advanced to the divisional round. Now it gets real.
Yeah, and the way the scheduling kind of broke out, the NFL had a choice. Do we put Buffalo on short rest, meaning, hey, you played Sunday, now you got to play on Saturday, or are we going to put Washington on short rest? Hey, you got to play. The answer was clear. We're going to put the Washington Commanders on Saturday because America wants to see Lamar Jackson against Josh Allen. And for anybody that wonders, those MVP votes, they're already cast.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to swear. I've read some things like, this will determine. No.
No, it will
Nothing,
not.
No, it won't.
Yeah. Well, it is the matchup that we were all waiting for. It was the one that we expected to happen, and Baltimore made way of Pittsburgh with relative ease on Saturday night as well. We're going to preview everything going on. We're going to talk about everything that happened this past weekend in the NFL, preview everything coming up here for the divisional round. And we're going to do it with some of the best and brightest covering the Buffalo Bills, including Ryan Talbot from NewYorkUpstate.com and the Shout Podcast, who stops by in the 4 o'clock hour.
Yeah, I saw Ryan yesterday. He was waiting to talk to Ty Johnson, so we'll get Ryan's thoughts here on this Bills running game, which, look, if you're talking about differences between the 2024 Bills, which is now 2025, and other years, this 3-headed monster, which you hope it's still a 3-headed monster with Ray Davis, but it is something worth note. When you can hold on to the ball more than 41 minutes, we'll talk to Ryan Talbot in the 425 or so.
210 yards, the most in a playoff game for the Bills since 1995, over 4.5 yards a carry. I mean, the time of possession, the run game, James Cook specifically, 23 carries, over 5 yards per carry. 123 yards. Fantastic. We'll talk more Bills later on this hour as well with the editor at Bills Digest, Batavia Daily News. Alex Brasky stops by.
Yeah, and Alex was at the stadium as well tomorrow, so we will dive into this matchup. Okay, get ready, Bills and Ravens, for the right to play at Kansas City, the AFC Championship
You would assume
game.
so,
Yeah.
but let's. I mean, the one thing I'll say about the Chiefs and the Texans matchup on Saturday is that Kansas City hasn't really played any meaningful football in like 3 weeks. That the time off might slow them down a little bit. It might also be exactly what they needed, and they'll make quick work of Houston. I wasn't overly impressed with what Houston showed on Saturday. I mean, that was, for the most part, a really bad football game between two teams that didn't look like they belonged in the playoffs. It was conjuring up Bills Jaguars. Remember that game with Tyrod where it's like, oh my God, this is setting playoff football back 50 years. It wasn't great football, but Houston gets the win over the Chargers. They will travel to Arrowhead, and of course we will discuss everything that goes on with the Bills and the Ravens, the Chiefs and the Texans, all leading up to the AFC Championship and hopefully a chance for the Super Bowl for our Buffalo Bills. Alex Brasky stops by 3:25 this afternoon. You can pull up a stool and join us anytime on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That's 866-4FAN, 866-4326 on a Victory Monday, award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub. It tastes even better. 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
And Greg Rousseau. What number is he, Danger?
Yeah, I went more with Mike Singletary, actually.
Wait.
If you're in my wheelhouse, I know where you're going.
Yeah.
If you're in my wheelhouse, it's Mike Singletary. It's a Hall of Fame number. It's been retired. It was a fun birthday weekend.
Big milestone. All right,
milestone
so
birthday.
What did the girls do for you?
Let's see. Saturday. I mean, they asked me, like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I'm like, honestly, guys, I'm happy just staying at home, sitting on the couch and watching football all weekend. Like, I don't need anything. I'm good. And they're like, do you want to go ice skating? I'm like, I love going ice skating, but I know you guys hate being cold. So that's going to wear on me. I'm going to feel guilty. So no, let's not go ice skating. So I had a nice day Saturday. I went to the West Side Country Club. I spent some time there and got a good workout in, and because I knew there's going to be a lot of food in my future. Saturday night for the games, just ordered pizza, stayed in, watched the games, hung out. Sunday, my brothers-in-law, my sister-in-law, they all came over. My nephew came over. We all watched football. I got some steaks, threw them on the egg, made some reverse seared ribeyes, enjoyed the hell out of that, drank took a few pulls out of the infinity bottle, and enjoyed my Sunday. Enjoyed the Bills win, enjoyed just, the playoff. And by the way, it's not over. It continues tonight. The Rams and the Vikings, and they've got wings and domestic beer ready for me, and my liver hates me. That's really all I can say.
Like you should just make this a week of celebration.
I'm not ready for that. I can't do that anymore, man. I cannot do that anymore. Hey, speaking of going out and having a good time, we've got something special brewed for Friday. It's another Friday Football Talk Live. This is a playoff edition. Come hang with us. We will be live from 3 until 6, broadcasting from Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue, where you can score a 4-pack to go for game day, for Sunday, of the limited run Leaping Hazy IPA Playoff Edition. You heard me. There's a playoff edition of the Leaping Hazy IPA.
Playoffs?
Yep.
Don't talk about playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
You can get that only at Three Heads while they last. We'll have delicious Three Heads beer, Freddy's wood-fired pizza. It is the perfect pregame. Just a few days early there, Friday Football Talk Live, the playoff edition, Three Heads in the neighborhood of the arts on Atlantic Avenue this Friday from 3 until 6 with the sports bar on the Fan Rochester.
Yeah, next week, my gosh, the 4 divisional games and then the national championship next Monday night. And, oh, by the way, for many, it's going to be a 3-day weekend next week.
Mm-hmm. So
not for us.
Nope,
not for us.
No, we'll be here. Reaction Monday on MLK for a company holiday. No, we'll be coming in and talk about that. But you can get the weekend started with us. That's Friday afternoon from 3 until 6. We're going to be live at Three Heads for another Friday Football Talk Live. Okay, I believe the table is set. We appreciate you listening at 95.7 FM, AM 950. Of course, anybody watching the stream on our YouTube channel at the Fan Rochester. Gene is not wearing the knit cap today, so it's cold, but it's not that cold.
It's not that cold, and the update here is, this is hilarious. Apparently, it's the landlord talking to the old landlord about, and it's an outside maintenance company. So it's the landlord hiring somebody. We're just all in the middle of this. And tomorrow there's a big meeting. So they are going to come in the studio. I need to bring in a thermometer. And I learned, just kind of researching that, hey, if it dips below 62, you are in violation.
You didn't research. You lived through it.
Well,
you went through this when you were younger and you were renting a downtrodden apartment that didn't have heat. You had to realize, okay, what do I have to do to turn? What's it going to take to get heat into the sports bar? Well, we're going to go through those steps and those paces, and I'm glad meetings are happening. I don't necessarily know if action will happen, but meetings will happen. That's good to know.
Yeah, so for Mike, who said, you should just out the landlord and just like, I'm trying diplomacy here. We're just trying diplomacy because we can tough it out here a little bit. And let's be honest, if you listen to the show, chances are you're a sports fan. I myself, like many sports fans, little superstitious. So if we've been in this Bills run here, winning while the studio is freezing cold, we've been enjoying Italian music. We just kind of don't want to upset anybody.
Okay. So we know the matchup. It will be Baltimore. A lot of us kind of figured that this is the direction it was going to go. Baltimore dispatching of Pittsburgh with relative ease on Saturday. More on Pittsburgh's just atrocious stretch run down the season here in a little bit. But this matchup, of course, will have everybody focused on the 2 MVP candidate quarterbacks. How will the Bills defensively stop Lamar Jackson and stop Derrick Henry? And the biggest thing that I remember, or one of the biggest things that I remember from the first time these two met, aside from it being a primetime game in Baltimore, aside from Baltimore wearing the all-black unis and really kind of being charged for that game, the Bills were without, remember this, Taron Johnson, Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano. Now, 2 of those 3, specifically Milano and Johnson, have a rich history against Lamar Jackson and against the Ravens. I'm not here to tell you that Matt Milano is going to match up from a speed standpoint with Derrick Henry or with Lamar Jackson, but I certainly can tell you that he knows where he needs to be, and the same would be said for Taron Johnson, more so than who they had out there that night in Baltimore.
Yeah, couple thoughts on that first. Taron Johnson, don't tackle with your head down. I thought when that happened, I'm like, there goes the season. This is really bad. One of the key pieces. Contrary to what Terrible Take Timmy has to say, Taron Johnson is valuable, so valuable to this Bills defense. But what a great read. Just plugging that hole. Just whatever defensive back could actually read that, go up, and then no gain on the play, basically. And the other, of course, being Matt Milano. Matt Milano tracking down Bo Nix on a 3rd down and forcing a punt. Now, Bo Nix does not have the wheels. He doesn't have the speed of Lamar Jackson, but that's one of the things that was missing in this Bills defense here. And Matt Milano at least knows, what Lamar Jackson's going to be up to, whether or not, he's going to get him every time, but that's an encouraging sign, seeing the old Matt Milano flash yesterday.
Yeah, I wonder who this week during practice, who plays the part of Lamar Jackson on the scout team. You get KJ Hamler back there. It used to be, was it Isaiah McKenzie that was always back there?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious as to how they kind of go about their preparation for Lamar Jackson. And I don't know that you can prepare for Derrick Henry. I mean, nobody is going to prepare for trying to tackle a 250-pound man moving at 20 miles an hour in the month of January. That's not a small feat. But again, if these guys were missing the first time they played, they do have a history, not just against Lamar Jackson, but also against Derrick Henry. And I would venture to guess that they're going to have a better sense of where they need to be than what you had out there at linebacker and nickel corner the first time these two teams met.
Yeah. One thing, too, and funny, like we were talking about this on Friday, and Gary Craig from the DNC just kind of, what are the benefits? We were having an exchange on X today. What are the benefits of the Bills? Why not receive the opening kickoff here? Why, when we always defer? And I looked it up, and I had that wrong in my head. The Bills actually lost the coin toss, and it was Baltimore deferring. And if you remember what happened there, the Bills' first drive petered out. Yeah. And they punted, and, hey, we pinned them inside the 20-yard line. Oops, there goes Derrick Henry for 87 yards. The lesson on that, if you remember on the first drive, 50-yard line, 4th and 2, and you punted. This is not going to be a field possession game. I think it's a number of possession games here that by evident here, Danger, what the Bills did against the Broncos, almost like a kind of like a warm-up here. The way the Bills played and running, and you know what? Hey, kid, you're not going to have much time on the field because we're just going to keep the ball. If they are able to execute that well on offense, the way they did against Denver, against Baltimore, all right, I like their chances.
Sure, absolutely. And the offensive line continues to play a dominant role here. And in the run game, they're able to kind of do whatever they want. And that was a good defense against the Broncos on Sunday. It's going to be a little bit tougher against the Ravens. There's more size. There's more physicality there. So they're going to have their challenges running the ball. And I don't think they're going to have as much success as they had against the Broncos. But can you steal a possession or two? And that's all Denver was trying to do. I mean, Sean Payton, nobody should have been surprised, especially Smiley. Nobody should have been surprised that they tried to fake a punt. And they actually got away with it. Like, when you're playing Josh Allen, when you're playing Lamar Jackson, you need to steal a possession wherever you can. If it's a takeaway, it's a takeaway. If it's, extending a drive and not punting, not giving the ball up, you do what you have to do, even if it means you're 4th and 1 and you're going to do a tush push to extend that drive, whatever it takes. And hell, the Bills, you're right, against the Broncos, when they're on the 24-yard line on a 4th and 1 and they go for it, Allen has no business throwing the ball that he threw to Ty Johnson. Like, you could tell he wanted to run, he couldn't run. I mean, that was a prayer that was answered by the football gods, and it was an unbelievable throw and an unbelievable catch by Johnson. These are great plays, and I love it when they happen, but they don't feel sustainable to me. They feel like, okay, that play is like a unicorn. You're never going to really see something like that.
Well, everybody was covered on that, and we can kind of question the play call to begin with. And I thought, Danger, watching that and where the press box is, that Allen might have had a chance to take off. I mean, it was only 1 yard. I'm thinking, take off, and he's waiting because he knows. He knows what Ty Johnson is up to. When he let that ball go, I'm like, what is he doing? And then
exactly.
What are you doing? And then,
Yes.
the Josh Allen experience there.
Yes.
Josh Allen experienced a little bit of nerves, too, because he did have Dawson Knox in the end zone earlier in the game. They had to settle for the 3.
Yeah, I would say as efficient as Josh Allen was, and he had himself another great game, 20 of 26, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns, 8 rushes, 46 yards, 318 yards of total offense for 17. There are a couple of passes where it's like, and this is where we are. I mean, this is a wonderful place for us to be, that we're looking at the quarterback who threw for 77% and 2 touchdowns, and we're like, we want a little bit more. Like, yeah, but you could tell he was just a little off on a couple of those incompletions.
Yeah, I always, and you'll hear me say this again, like when it came to the Patriots Super Bowl era, which is now dead, when they got to the Super Bowl, the stat that always stood out to me, they never scored a touchdown in the first quarter, ever, in all those games. And it was almost like, hey, we need just kind of make sure we're not playing ourselves out of this game, okay? We just need to kind of dial in. And I think, if I'm going to draw an analogy, I think that's kind of like with Allen, too. Everybody's so hyped. Okay, let's just kind of dial in.
Right.
And once you dial in, you see how good this team is in the second half. Sure, you can credit the coaches, but it's the players who are doing it on the field. That second half wasn't anything like the first half.
And defensively, and this is some of the commentary after the game that I caught, and I know Rasul Douglas was specifically the one that was bringing this up, that everybody's kind of talking about how the Bills' defense wasn't able to get off the field on third down, that they haven't been a good third down team. And that was something that was asked of them over the course of last week leading up to this game, and Douglas was very quick to say, oh, yeah, you mean we can't get off the field on third down because how do we do today? I like that they're feeling themselves a little bit here. I like that he brought in Ed Oliver. Ed, what did you think? Like they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to need that against Baltimore. And I think there's another thing that now kind of adds to that chip that resides on their shoulder, and that's Vegas. Did Vegas just flip this line? Because it opened the Bills a 1-point favorite.
Right. Well, it's Vegas, but why are they doing that? That's because the public is pushing the money in that direction. The Bills opened as a 1-point home favorite. Wait a second. Now the Bills are a 1-point underdog?
Yeah.
A team that's 13-4 with a better record, but we look at what happened back in week 4. Ooh. Baltimore's the better team. They have the MVP. They have Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I also, kind of going along with that motif, did you see what Josh Allen wore into the stadium yesterday? He wore kind of this, zipped up sweatshirt, and on it had this logo, F-E-A. Like, what does that mean? Well, the A stands for all. The E is short for them, like M. And the F, you know what the F stands for. Blank em all.
Is that a new brand of clothing attire?
I don't know. I mean, that was
making a statement.
Making a statement. I don't know who had the bigger statement, like him or Fred Flintstone, Mac Hollins walking in.
Okay, so if we can lighten the mood just for a second. Is Mac Hollins the thirstiest Buffalo Bill of all time? And I'm not saying that to be rude. He is a character, and I think everybody loves him, and we embrace him, and we wrap our arms around him, and he's done everything you've asked him to do. He had a great play on special teams yesterday. Unbelievable.
Oh, love that.
Just great, right? Like, you love this guy, yet it's like, all right, we get it now, dude. We understand you don't eat with utensils, and you don't wear shoes, and now you're showing up dressed up as Fred Flintstone with now it's like borderline thirsty.
Or maybe he was just trying to lighten the mood.
Well, I love it.
It has to be an inside joke, right? Why else would you wear like this toga that Fred Flintstone?
He was wearing a Fred Flintstone. It was a costume. He was like, you go to Party City, which I believe is their doors are closing nationwide. He probably got it like on discount. Fred Flintstone costume, and he wore the Buffalo tribe hat. The big tribe of the angry buffalo, or whatever it is from the Flintstones. And he's not wearing his shoes, and he looks like a caveman, and we love him. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, every week it's something different. It's, I'm surprised that Sean McDermott hasn't like pulled him aside and, hey, man, a little thirsty. But it hasn't happened yet. And I don't think it will happen because they're just kind of embracing him for the weirdness that he is. As long as he keeps making plays, nobody's going to complain.
Yeah, like as long as you get that, like what other team would have your leading wide receiver in terms of touchdown receptions go and lay somebody out the way that
it was
he
great
did yesterday?
Yeah. And Shakir was great in the punt return game as well. He had a nice couple of returns as well. So things looking up for the Bills. They handle their business with an easy 31-7 win in the wild card round against the Broncos, and they will face the Ravens coming up here Sunday night on The Fan Rochester. We got to move on to Alex Brasky. We'll talk more Bills next. Alex from the Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest, and we'll get his thoughts on yesterday's win. Look ahead to Sunday as well next on The Fan.
Sports Update.
Bills a 1-point underdog for their game against the Ravens from the win over Denver. Quarterback Josh Allen says he never lost faith in wide receiver Curtis Samuel.
I'd be the first one to say, I'll speak on behalf of Curtis. He probably didn't have the season that he wanted to have. He was dealing with a few things early on and during the middle of the year. But he kept grinding, kept being quiet, and stayed focused. And, I've never lost any sort of trust in him.
Bills and Ravens, 6:30 the kickoff this coming Sunday. We'll talk some Bills football. Coming up next, Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News and Bills Digest to join us. Wild Card Weekend wrapping up tonight. It's the Vikings and Rams in a game being played in Arizona. Big change coming up in Big D as the Dallas Cowboys parting ways with head coach Mike McCarthy. Sabres coming off a bad loss to Seattle. They're back on Wednesday against Carolina. Team Battaglia and the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Ty's just, he makes plays. He makes plays. And Josh has a lot of trust in him, as you saw. 4th and 1. It was 4th and 1. So we threw it. How far down the field was it?
25 yards.
Yeah. So, hey, you tell me it's complete, I'm going to sign up for it every week. But, hey, those are the look, I trust Josh. You guys know that. I trust him, and I believe in him. So that's where that is.
It's one thing to hear the coach talk about it afterwards, too. It's like everybody had the same reaction as that ball left Josh Allen. So I was like, no! And then, of course, it ends up the way it typically does end up with Josh Allen. And a touchdown in the back of the end zone to Ty Johnson. We welcome in Alex Brasky, Bills Digest and the Batavia Daily News, joining us now in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia. Alex, I mean, Allen doing what he did has become commonplace, and we shouldn't be surprised. What was surprising was to see how quickly the defense adjusted and reacted to being in a 7-0 hole and shut down that Denver offense for the rest of the afternoon.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. Danger, happy birthday. Hope you got your AARP card in the mail.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, we can use it together. You want to go to get some Cracker Barrel or something? What do you think?
Oh, my God. I would absolutely love that early bird special. But, yeah, it's really become commonplace, as you said, to watch Josh Allen do what he did on that 24-yard touchdown to Ty Johnson. That was a vintage Josh Allen moment, buying time to his right side, just firing it into the exact spot it needed to be for his receiver to go down and make a sliding catch. And Ty Johnson added to what's been a phenomenal season for the third down running back. He's been much more than that for the Bills this season, and doing a lot on early downs and contributing obviously on third down as well. But what he did against the Lions and then what he did yesterday against the Broncos, that's much more than you typically see from a backup running back in big moments. But, yeah, as far as the defense is concerned, I thought it was just an all-around solid effort. Not many standout performances from that group. I thought Matt Milano may have been the star of the effort, second on the team in tackles, came away with a sack, chasing down Bo Nix near the sideline, and also chasing down Marvin Mims on that end around. So Milano seems to be rounding into form, and that's a great sign for the Bills, showing that sideline-to-sideline ability that he did yesterday. But really it was just a solid performance. Everybody fulfilling their roles well, except for on that one play, the 40-yard bomb early in the game, which Rasul Douglas chalked up to a miscommunication between he and Taylor Rapp. But, yeah, the defense answered a lot of the critics, silenced them with a big performance against the Broncos. A much tougher test coming up this week, though. They're going to need all hands on deck, and I heard you mention it earlier in the show. They didn't have Terrell Bernard. They didn't have Taron Johnson. They didn't have Matt Milano in the past game against the Baltimore Ravens. Khalil Shakir in that game goes in and out with an ankle injury, I believe it was. And you also had Taylor Rapp leave the game with a concussion. So the Bills were severely depleted in that matchup with the Ravens earlier this season, and I'm excited to see what they have to offer this time around at full strength.
Yeah, all the additions coming back here on defense, but Alex, if you can somehow get anywhere close to what the Bills' offensive line and the rushing game did yesterday, 41 minutes plus time of possession, that would be the blueprint for any game against any opponent.
Absolutely, and I think one of the ways you maybe not beat, but one of the ways you help stifle a Ravens offense is keeping them off the field as much as you can. I know football is about trading possessions, and at the end of the game, typically each team has the same number of possessions. But if you're able to keep Lamar Jackson on the sideline out of rhythm for an extended period of time, I think that works to your advantage. And having James Cook cooking the way that he is this season, that's certainly going to help your chances in that regard. It's been amazing to watch this Bills offense transform under Joe Brady, the balance that they put into place under Brady since he took over for Ken Dorsey last year. And it's really ramped up this season. I mentioned Ty Johnson. He had another big day, 9 carries, 44 yards. But really it was James Cook, 120 yards, 23 carries, I believe, 100 yards rushing in the first half. He became the first Bills player since Thurman Thomas in 1995 to go for over 100 yards in a playoff game. So that just goes to show you the impact that he's had on this team this year that they haven't had in past seasons come playoff time. And I think this is exactly what Sean McDermott has been looking for out of his offense since he took the reins as Bills head coach, a balanced offense, one that you can look to the running game in games like this to control the clock, control the action. That's exactly what they did yesterday. I wrote in my 5 takes on the dailynewsonline.com. You didn't need a vintage Josh Allen performance yesterday. He took a back seat at the beginning of that game. They rode the running game with James Cook, and that really allowed the defense to settle in and help the Bills earn the victory. So impressive day all around for the Bills. Josh Allen got it done late. The defense really got it done after that bomb was given up early, and James Cook in the running game got it done from pillar to post. So I think a lot of room for encouragement as you enter this daunting matchup with the Baltimore Ravens, the game of the year perhaps in the divisional round.
All right, so let's talk about the trenches a little bit here. And you mentioned the run game for the Buffalo Bills. The Bills' offensive line, the continuity. Aaron Cromer's done a great job. Joe Brady's done a great job of giving the offense that balance. The last time we saw this Ravens defense, it was pretty well known that you could pick on them in the passing game, but they've always been a challenge to run against. And that's kind of shifted, and they've become a little bit more balanced. In fact, they've become one of the better defenses in the NFL here down the stretch. So how, Alex, do you think this Bills offensive line matches up against the size and the physicality that Baltimore is going to throw at them defensively?
Listen, the way that this offensive line is performing this year, I think opposing teams need to concern themselves a bit more with how they match up with the Bills, and the Bills need to worry about how they match up with the opposing team. What Aaron Cromer, you said it, what he's done with this group, bringing them together, and just the continuity that they've built these past couple of years. I know that there was some shifting along the offensive line in terms of positionally, but this group has been together for 2 years now under Aaron Cromer, and you had what I thought was an all-pro performance from Deion Dawkins this year, and he certainly seemed to think so as we spoke with him yesterday after the game. And the look in his eye, you could just tell he was broken up about not receiving those all-pro honors. I think he saw that they were coming his way this year. He did say that what ultimately matters is how he's valued within the locker room, but he couldn't lie, couldn't sugarcoat it. That was a goal of his, and he was hurt by it. But yeah, you look at this offensive line, and I think they match up pretty well with anybody, including this Ravens defense, that if you look at the stats and you look at their trends, weeks 13 through 18, that's included matchups with the Giants, Steelers, and Browns. That's really when they've turned things around and become what is considered statistically the best defense in the NFL over those weeks. They're the top scoring defense, top total defense, top pass defense, top third down percentage, top red zone defense, and top opposing passer rating in the league. But I think that's been inflated a bit by those matchups with lowly teams such as the Giants and the Browns, and then a putrid offense in the Steelers that really lost its way down the stretch of the season. So I think the Ravens, what they're going to get with Josh Allen and this offense is a group that's humming on a level that they haven't seen in the past number of weeks. And I think it's going to be good on good. It's going to come down to a shootout. And I really think it's going to come down to who has the ball last year.
We're talking to Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest, the Right Here, Right Now podcast as well. Alex, you brought up Milano, and it's good to see him getting back to form there. I want to talk about a guy who, really we hadn't seen at all, but came up big yesterday, that being wide receiver Curtis Samuel when his number was called. And granted, That was against who could be the defensive player of the year in Patrick Surtain, twisted it inside out, and then got the leverage, made that cut, and the speed there. Talk about Samuel. Was it just a case of that guy getting healthy? Could we see a little bit more of that in the postseason?
Yeah, pretty poor effort from Surtain on that play. I think you have to take that into account. He really kind of gave up on the play after Samuel caught the ball and looked to reverse field. If you watch that replay, just like I said, kind of a poor effort there. But, yeah, you have to give Samuel a lot of effort. He's led the Bills in receiving, I believe, 2 games in a row, 8 or 7 receptions last week against the Patriots for over 50 yards, 3 receptions this week for over 60 yards, if my memory serves me correctly. And if you look at this Bills team and the way that they've peaked during the regular season, and Rasul Douglas mentioned this during, I believe it was this past week, he doesn't believe this team has peaked yet, and I think that's in a way by design. If you look at this team defensively, what they showed yesterday, shutting down the Broncos and really clicking on all cylinders, like I said, just a complete team effort. I'm not going to say they held a bunch back, but I think part of what you build into it when you're a perennial playoff contender is not exposing your full hand during the regular season and maybe leaving some tricks up your sleeve come playoff time. And I think that's exactly what Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, Bobby Babich, and company are going to do over these next couple of weeks if they can continue along this run. And I think one of those cards that you're going to play is Curtis Samuel here, and you saw it to lead off the postseason. Came through in a big way to help really put the hammer down on that win and help the Bills advance to this matchup with the Ravens.
You mentioned Rasul Douglas, and I thought it was interesting after the game yesterday. You know, he kind of let everybody know that he's hearing and the defense is hearing what a lot of us are talking about. This is a Bills defense that isn't very good at getting off the field on third down, and he specifically made that stat known that, okay, how do we do today? Ed Oliver, come over here. Let everybody know, how do we do today? I mean, are these the guys? I mean, they're feeling themselves a little bit, and it feels like they're playing with a little bit of a chip. They're listening to some of the external noise. You mentioned Dawkins not getting all pro and being kind of upset by that. Now the Bills go into this game, and they're an underdog as of right now. I mean, is that chip fueling them a little bit here? Do you think they're listening to the noise?
They are absolutely listening to the noise. I heard you also kick off the show. You were talking about Josh Allen's FEA sweatshirt that he donned entering the game yesterday. We won't go into detail in terms of what that stands for. I actually thought, Gene, you did an unbelievable job. This is why you're a future Broadcasters Hall of Famer. The way that you alluded to what the shirt stood for, I think everybody listening knew without you actually divulging that information. But I have further information for you if anybody wants to get the sweatshirt. It's a sweatshirt made by Enchante, which is a brand founded by Alan's close friend Daniel Ricciardo of the Formula One realm, I believe is what it is. I'm not a racing guy, but that's where I think the shirt spawned from. But, yeah, there's no doubt they're hearing the noise. I mentioned talking to Dawkins after the game. I think it's going to fuel him this postseason, that perceived all-pro snub, and I think that can only work to the Bills' advantage. And listen, this is a team that doesn't really need any extra motivation. They've lost in the divisional round the past number of years. They've already lost to the Ravens this year, but any bulletin board material you can use at this time of year, I think the better.
Now, Alex, if you were listening, I'm not going to call Mac Hollins thirsty because, honestly, I don't want to cross paths with him and have to be accountable for that. But where do you come down on this? Is this guy – what can you share with us? Is he just so super eccentric, or is there a little bit of look at me, whatever it is it's working. Just go hit the punt returner and catch
nobody's going to
touchdowns.
complain as long as he keeps making plays.
Yeah, and to build off my last response, I think the third down success that the Bills defense had yesterday, you have to temper that a little bit. They did finish the day 2 for 9, but on that opening drive, they allowed that 3rd and 8 conversion, the 19-yard pass to Cortland Sutton. So that's really been their bugaboo, those 3rd and longs, and I think they got into a little bit more 3rd and shorts, which it should work conversely. You should do better as a defense against 3rd and short, but for some reason the Bills are just putrid against 3rd and long, and you have to take that into account when you're taking their performance yesterday as a total effort. But what was the other question? I forgot as I backtracked.
He's afraid to answer the question
He's
about
afraid,
Matt Collins.
You are afraid to answer.
No, Matt Collins.
Here's where I'm at. Here's where I'm at with it, Brasky. And tell me where you come down on it. I mean, like, we love the guy. He's eccentric. He's fun. He's funny. He does the TikTok hack, videos, and he shows up as Fred Flintstone, and he keeps making plays. But man, this guy feels like the antithesis of what Sean McDermott wants. Unless he's just, they're all embracing it because he's that lovable character.
Yeah, and I heard you guys talking about that earlier, too. See, I am a loyal listener to the show. I am locked in on the Fan Rochester today, every Buffalo Football Monday. But can I say that on the station? But yeah, I think Matt Collins is as genuine as they come. I don't think there's a fake bone in his body. He wears the Casio digital watch during the game yesterday. If you look at one of the still shots of him blowing up Marvin Mims on that punt return, he's wearing a wristwatch on his left arm, and that was something that wasn't even publicized. So I think he just does these things just because that's who he is. You look at the TikTok videos and the science instruction and the survival instruction and the home do-it-yourself instruction. That's just who he is. And the Bills have this saying, be who you are with us, and Matt Collins is the embodiment of that. I just think a lot of coaches might try to tamp that down come playoff time, him rolling in with the Fred Flintstone yesterday. But I think, to use the Josh Allen phrase, you dance with who brung you. And Matt Collins has been who he is all season long. You're not going to stop now. And to answer your question, I think he's as genuine as it comes. I think for everybody in this world, there's a little bit of look at me. You like that recognition, but I don't think he's doing this for attention. I really just think it's who he is and what he enjoys doing.
I love the fact that the Bills have this quarterback that commands attention, and people will say, oh, the Chiefs get all the calls. Okay, the Bills didn't get a call yesterday, but that sure as heck looked like an apology. I've never seen anything like that, Alex. And for folks who missed it, so there's a play in the end zone, and clearly it looks like Dalton Kincaid is held. And, whoever's running the controls, I think it's an RIT grad, Shannon, who was doing it, putting it up on the scoreboard, boo, everybody's booing, everybody sees the hold. The ref, Bill Vinovich, goes over. Was that an apology, do you think, Alex, going to Josh Allen on the sideline?
He cleared that up, didn't he, after the game, Alex? Didn't Josh mention that?
No, he did not, exactly.
Oh.
What did you make of that?
Having some very, very, very low-level officiating experience, particularly on the baseball diamond, I think what was happening there was Bill Vinovich was explaining to him perhaps, if you look at the back judge on that play, the back judge was not even looking at the hold that was occurring right in front of his face. And I think there was a lot of fans' point of being upset at the play. The referee was right there. He wasn't watching. But I think the mechanics of the play, that may not have been his responsibility. That may have been Bill Vinovich's responsibility. And I think after the play, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Josh Allen went after the back judge and was arguing with him. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, so what you were talking about, Danger. So Allen was asked about it yesterday, and apparently Vinovich at some point said, don't be yelling about this. And then when followed up, did he apologize? And Allen, it's classic Josh Allen, communicating without words there, just kind of gave a little smirk there.
Yeah, and what I think he may have been saying is don't be yelling, but don't be yelling at the wrong person as well. Maybe he was telling Josh Allen, that's my call. That's not the back judge's call in that situation. Now, I can't get into his brain. I don't have the mechanics of NFL officiating, but with my very low-level experience, that's really all I can point to. Perhaps he was telling Josh Allen that it wasn't the person's call who was receiving Josh Allen's ire, and maybe to direct it in the correct way.
Alex,
there's no way he was apologizing. Bill Vinovich is a veteran official. There's no way he would put himself in that position.
Before we let you go, what's your take on the other divisional round matchup in the AFC here? The Chiefs, who haven't played really any meaningful ball and haven't really been on the field together for like the last 3 weeks, They get to host Houston, who get by the Chargers in what was kind of a disappointing output by both teams in that early window on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think the Texans have any chance in this game. You look at that offense and how it performed before the defense started lighting up Justin Herbert. I don't think they have any chance to compete with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City offense. Now, if you tell me that the Texans are going to intercept Patrick Mahomes 3 or 4 times, maybe I'll give them a chance. But for some reason, I just don't think Patrick Mahomes is going to throw up all over himself in a divisional round playoff game against a team that has struggled at the back half of the season. I think the Texans, I want to use a PG phrase here. They really extended themselves, I think, in that first round. I don't think you're going to see them win 2 games in a row. I think they're happy with that playoff victory, and Kansas City will roll to that AFC Championship game.
The censorship of Alex Prasky here in the sports
Well,
bar,
it's really
you know.
the FCC. The FCC is just holding us down from talking the way we really want to talk about this matchup, Alex.
Did I do as good of a job on that as Gene? Did you know what 2 phrases that I may have used there?
Yeah, I think we got you.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to put all your chips into the table and then use them all up, but you know. I kind of
You don't want to push those chips into the middle of the table too quickly.
Alex, what is happening this week with Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest, and I know you were taping right here. It wasn't taping. You were live yesterday right here, right now. When's the next one drop?
Yeah, we had Bruce Nolan of the Bruce Exclusive, the mysterious Bruce Nolan, on our post-game pod yesterday. Gene, before I got on air with you, he said he was going to come in and join us. I don't know why he didn't. I told him, I think the last time I was on with you, he was welcome to do so. But maybe this coming week we'll have to
walk right in then.
Yeah, hey, walk right
on
in.
Right.
We're a casual show. We're a very casual show. We enjoy a little banter. You would have enjoyed that.
Well,
but
this week's going to be 11 p.m. You realize that, Alex? So.
Yeah, that I'm not looking forward to. When I first started on the beat, I got really ramped up for night games, really excited, and I still do get excited for them, but come the second half when the game's winding down, I realize what time I'm going to get out of there. It's not the best feeling. But on the dailynewsonline.com, you can find all of our coverage. Wrote a couple of brief features after the game yesterday, just highlighting what Matt Milano did, what Ty Johnson did, and the reaction from the locker room. And we also had, I believe, 5 shows this past week on Right Here, Right Now, so kicking it into high gear. We had plenty of good guests: Joe Marino, Joe Biscaglia, Nate Geary, Sal Capaccio, Ryan Talbot, and Gene is coming this week. So you have to remain locked in on Right Here, Right Now. And Danger, don't let us leave you out. We can also discuss some Chicago Bears and that dumpster fire if you ever want to.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a Bears show, so I'm not going to waste your time with it, Alex. But we appreciate you stopping by and giving us some of your time today. And have a great week, bud.
Fair. Happy birthday, my man.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate you. There's Alex Brasky, Bills Digest, Batavia Daily News, spending some time with us talking Buffalo Bills here in the sports bar.
A lot of fun there. But that did look weird with Vinovich, right?
It did look like he was apologizing to Allen. I get it. I get what everybody's saying. And Allen clearing it up a little bit.
But I buy that explanation. We're saying, hey, that's my call.
Yeah.
Don't
yell.
Yeah.
Well, just in general, don't yell. Like, I don't think officials in the playoffs like being stood up, like called out. They're the best of the best, right? Like, they're supposed to be the best of the best. And the postseason also marks the return of shadow officials.
I know.
The shadow officials are back. So they're not going to miss a lot of calls. Like, the shadow officials are out there, and, if you're Vinovich, hey, pipe down a little bit.
Well, if it's a rookie quarterback, Vinovich isn't going over to the sideline.
No, right.
It's almost like, hey, I do that again, I might have to throw the flag.
That's right. It's a mutual respect. It's a mutual respect. Hey, I'm good at my job. You're clearly good at your job. Knock it off with the yelling. If that's where it ends, that's where it ends.
But I've never seen a referee in the NFL go over to the sideline.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
It was interesting, and it did. It kind of looked like, oh, hey, Josh, I'm sorry about that. Now every Chiefs fan has all the ammunition and fuel for the Bills. The Bills get all the calls. Now it's the Bills that are getting. Josh Allen gets all the calls. he'll take the mantle away from Patrick Mahomes, who's held that crown for quite some time now. We'll talk to Ryan Talbot at NewYorkUpstate.com next hour. We'll talk more Buffalo Bills. Get ready for this matchup. And we're talking about getting ready for Sunday. Oh, yes, we are back at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue this Friday. Come and hang with us from 3 until 6 as we're broadcasting live. Three Heads Brewing, Atlantic Avenue, the neighbor to the arch. You could score a 4-pack to go for game day, the limited run of the Leaping Hazy IPA playoff edition. And you know that has a guy that sort of resembles your favorite quarterback right there on the can, and it's only available at Three Heads while they last. We'll have delicious Three Heads beer on tap, Freddy's Woodfire Pizza being served up as well. This is the pregame that you want to be a part of, a few days early. Friday Football Talk Live, the playoff edition, that's this Friday from 3 until 6 at Three Heads with Gino and I, the Sports Bar, live on the Fan Rochester. Quick break, and we're going to come back. There's more around the NFL that we haven't gotten to yet, including the standard being the standard, Gino.
Yeah, I've got some thoughts on what's going on in Philadelphia. I didn't think we'd be talking about the Amazon bestseller list today and how it pertains to sports, but there's a bigger picture here in Philadelphia. I have a take on that. And then, the Cowboys. Where do they go from here, and why they really botched this, letting this hang like this?
Is Jaden Daniels having the best rookie season by a quarterback of all time? Think about that. We'll come back and we'll discuss, and I'll make the case. That's coming up before we get to Ryan Talbot here, coming up in about a half an hour or so. Stay in the Sports Bar. Danger and Battaglia, glad you're with us on the Fan Rochester.
9BF Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Bills start out as a 1-point favorite. Vegas has shifted the line now, or the Bills a 1-point underdog against the Ravens in the divisional round. So after that win over Denver, the Bills defense doing a much better job getting off the field on third down, pleasing Sean McDermott.
Third downs were big in the I think really since that first conversion on that first scoring drive that they had, and you got to get off the field on third down. I thought we were pretty darn good at it. I think we ended up they ended up 2 for 9, so we'll take that.
Bills and Ravens, 6:30, the kickoff this coming Sunday. We'll talk some Bills football later this hour. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com and the Shout Podcast joining us. Wildcard weekend wrapping up tonight. The Vikings and Rams in Arizona. The Cowboys parting ways with head coach Mike McCarthy. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
And that will do it as the Bills, for the 5th straight season, have won the wild card playoff. They win it 31-7 over the Denver Broncos. And with this victory, the Bills advance to the divisional round, where they will host the Baltimore Ravens in a rematch from Week 4.
Touchdown Ravens! Lamar Jackson! Josh Allen MVP. Why not?
This is what everyone's been waiting for, right? So everyone will be looking forward to it, and it'll be a big challenge for us.
Both these teams are going to score some points.
Mike Danger.
Let's talk a little bit about yesterday's win for the Buffalo Bills as they advanced to the divisional round.
Gene Battaglia.
They won. This is where the bar's at. Yeah. So at least you can kind of take a deep breath and like, all right, great. We're on to the next one.
Yeah.
It's Victory Monday. What do we do here in the sports bar?
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
We'll say as Wild Card Weekend wraps up here tonight, the game in Arizona, it is weird as they're doing their pregame coverage on ESPN. It's weird seeing all the Rams logos in a sea of red, the home of the Arizona Cardinals, and certainly unfortunate circumstances pushing that game into the desert as LA continues to kind of deal with these ravaging wildfires.
Yeah, it's a few thoughts on this. One, I mean, what kind of atmosphere do we expect tonight? I mean, is it going, because in L.A., is it really that much a big rant? I guess it's going to be kind of neutral almost. If you're a retiree Viking fan living in Arizona, wow, I get a home playoff game. The other thought here, too, is, and I think the NFL, don't get me wrong, I think they made the right call, because it's not just about the game itself tonight. It's all the partners. It's all the people involved. There's so many moving pieces when it comes to any NFL playoff game, much less, a game under these circumstances. The NBA is playing in Los Angeles tonight. The Lakers are going to play. The Clippers, remember, they built their new arena. They're going to play. And, look, there's a lot less that goes into that, namely television and whatnot. But it's almost like the NBA sees this as an opportunity here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've got a lot of thoughts on the NBA. There is something that I'll share tomorrow on the show, right around this time tomorrow, that crossed my feed. And when I saw it, I'm like, oh, my God. If the NBA did more of this, if the NBA embraced this specific coach, this specific team, and how they manage their business, I think more fans would flock to the NBA. I think they would get more eyeballs. They would get more attention, because there is a team in the NBA that, in my opinion, win or lose, at least they're giving off the impression that they're doing it right.
Nick Nurse in Philadelphia, the 76ers.
No. But we'll talk about it tomorrow at this time. But we got a lot of football to talk about today, Gino.
That was a joke.
Yeah. I wasn't going to go back. I was going to go back and talk NBA when we got a lot of football to get to. And I posed the question before we went to break. Is Jaden Daniels having the best rookie season by a quarterback all time? I would say there's some contenders in there, right? You could look at Roethlisberger in 2004. I think Dak Prescott had a nice rookie season in 2016. You don't have to look that far when you see C.J. Stroud and what he did last year. But for me, it's still Jaden Daniels. He win a playoff game on the road. Statistically this season, only Lamar was a better dual-threat quarterback. He had over 3,500 yards passing, 25 touchdowns, 891 yards rushing, 6 more scores on the ground. He led his team in rushing. And he did it without Derrick Henry. Daniels just played a playoff game where his offense never punted. They never turned the ball over. It's the kind of feat that only Peyton Manning did in 2003 against the Chiefs, and Josh Allen did against the Patriots. We all remember that game in 2021. Nobody else has achieved that in the postseason. When Tampa opted to kick their game-tying field goal last night with 4:45 left in the game, I felt the way about Daniels that I feel when Mahomes or Allen get thrown into that kind of clutch spot. I just immediately say, too much time. You can't let Jaden Daniels have the ball last because he's going to rip out your soul. And he's already there for me as a rookie. I've seen it firsthand, obviously, through the course of this season. His fourth quarter comebacks through the course of this season and what he did last night. Again, I don't know that there's been a better season at quarterback by a rookie in NFL history.
Okay, can I bring this up? Because I don't hear this too much. Should Chicago have taken him number one? Or if he ended up in Chicago, would he be ruined like anything? Honestly, what you're seeing, I don't think Caleb Williams has been bad, okay, but who's had the better rookie season?
Oh, it's no question. Yeah, I'm not, and I can't argue any of that. And to answer your question, it's like anything. Like if Josh Allen was drafted by the Broncos, would he be Josh Allen that we know today? Who can say? You really don't know. It's really about the support, what you have around him, and boy, it feels like with, whether you're talking about the change at head coach, the change really at the top with ownership and management, your head coach, your offensive coordinator, there's alignment there. Man, Cliff Kingsbury was in his bag last night. I mean, just saw guys wide open. He's making it all look easy because it is. They've made it look easy. They're toying with teams. And I know that Detroit is going to be a heavy, heavy favorite this weekend. But, man, it would be shocking for me to see Washington not put up a fight, keep it close, or maybe even upset Detroit with Jaden Daniels at quarterback.
You want to know the power of product placement in the NFL. When we're talking to Alex Brasky, like, wait a second, what is that FEA? And again, Josh Allen, and it's his buddy for Formula One came in with it. A stands for all.
Yeah.
E is short for them, like M.
Yeah. F them all.
Yeah, F them all.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be a big seller. Books now. Are we going to ban books on the NFL sideline, Danger? Because this self-help author named Jim Murphy got a gift. He was somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 on Amazon's bestseller list this morning. Number one.
Yeah, good for him.
Number one for Inner Excellence. Are you kidding me? Danger, you could write a book, Inner Excellence, and then come up with something like that.
Well, if I did, would A.J. Brown read it? That's the question. If I did, or anybody did, A.J. Brown, to hear him tell it, he's constantly reading, right? That's his thing. I'm always reading. I always have this with me, which, when we catch it, we're like, what the hell's going on here? I actually think it's awesome. I think it's great. I mean, he's occupied with whatever he's occupied with. Maybe you could say, all right, be a little bit more engaged.
No, you couple this with whatever he had against Hurts in the offense. This is passive-aggressive behavior. We know it here in Western New York when we see it. We dealt with Diggs, who was spectacular on the field, but when you're doing this during good times and you're winning, it's fine. You should be in the NFC Championship game. Look, Danger, the Eagles made Brown at the time, this was past April, the highest paid receiver in the league. What is this behavior all about? Like, if you're upset, you don't want to be here, maybe it's time to move on from him. $61 million in dead cap, but if the Bills could get a 2 for Diggs, the Eagles could easily get a 2 for Brown. Do it this offseason before it gets too messy.
I don't think they will. I think they're going to keep him. And there's been these reports of, friction between quarterback and head coach, quarterback and wide receiver. I mean, this is Philadelphia. There's always drama.
Ooh.
They work it out. And even if they don't work it out, they still kind of get it done the way they need to get it done. This Eagles team certainly feels different than last year's Eagles team. Brown is spectacular when he's targeted, when he's engaged. I know that win was probably, if you're an Eagles fan, you probably wanted more. Like, oh, come on, the way it was going. Saquon, busts one open at the end and slides, which makes a lot of legalized sports wagers very upset.
What was it, though? I mean, it wasn't going to go over with that.
No, if you had him as an anytime touchdown score,
gotcha.
That would have been a nice payout for a lot of people who had Saquon finding pay dirt, but he decides to slide because strategically, probably the right thing to do, run out the rest of the clock. I know we're only 1 week into the postseason, and I've been held hostage by this stat that lives rent-free in my head about quarterbacks returning to the Super Bowl after they have lost their debut appearance in the Super Bowl, which Hurts and Goff would both qualify for, and it just feels like one of those two is going to get into the Super Bowl. Now, I mean, Minnesota could beat the Rams tonight and surprise some people. Stafford could certainly surprise some people. I wouldn't count out the Rams altogether, although I don't know about their defense really. But it does feel like a Lions-Eagles collision course for the NFC Championship, doesn't it?
I'm going to say whoever wins tonight's game gives Philly a game. I think that you've had a kind of a tumultuous, between change of plans and everything else.
Divisional Sunday is better. Divisional round games are better than Championship Sunday and the wild card round. Do we all agree on that?
This is the best weekend of pro football right here.
Because you got the 4 best teams on Saturday, the 4 best teams on Sunday. The games are usually very tight. They're very competitive. It feels like it's been elevated. Like there was some bad football this weekend. Bad teams, bad football. I'm going to talk about one of them here in a second. But now that they're all gone and they're all out of the way, now we can really get into it. Now it's like, okay, now this is the best of the best. These are teams that are desperate. These are teams that are going to fight. I can't wait.
I know you're going to get into with the Steelers here, but we said this on the show. Wait a second. The Ravens are favored by 9.5. This looks like they are tempting you to bet the Steelers here.
Yeah.
Vegas knew that the Steelers were going to just kind of lay down on Saturday.
Yeah, they are. The standard in Pittsburgh is the standard, right? It's what he always says, what Tomlin always says. Right now, they're in football purgatory. And I guess you can credit Tomlin for another winning season, another playoff berth. But this is a franchise that isn't going anywhere with him now moving forward. And I know that I predicted, one of my bold predictions was that he was going to have his first losing season this year. He didn't do that. He proved me wrong, but I think we're all right was we looked at that schedule and we said, hey, that tail end of the schedule for Pittsburgh is not going to be easy. The way they ended this season, Gino. Now, you get the loss in Baltimore. That could have been a cut-and-paste job from any of their now 6 straight playoff games where they've allowed over 28 points. No other team has more than 4 such games. You have the highest-paid defense in the league. You had Brian Flores on your sideline just a couple of seasons ago to lead that defense. They have no chance of a high draft pick. You have no real shot to win a playoff game. So what's the long-term plan in Pittsburgh to see them end this season with 5 straight, not just losses, wire-to-wire losses? They couldn't even muster up a 3-0 lead. A lifeless start to Saturday night's game. Tomlin's messaging is falling on deaf ears, clearly. The Steelers do have a higher standard than most teams, and there's nothing wrong with that. My Steeler fan friends now, though, are at the spot where you hate to see the fan of any team. They're apathetic. And the only way I see them re-engaging, the way you need them to re-engage as a fan base, is by adding the next visionary of a head coach. They won't, but they should.
Steelers have been getting blown out. That stat that's going around here. Like, they haven't been in any of these playoff games in recent years. And, look, it's just as simple as this, Danger. They drafted a quarterback in the first round. They got it wrong. There wasn't an option this year. They did the best they could. But is it going to get any better next year with Russell Wilson?
No, it's not going to.
No. Okay, are you going to be able to sign Sam Darnold? No, you're not. What is the plan there?
Yeah, that's the question I have is what is the plan? And, Arthur Smith is, Arthur Smith. They had a good defensive mind and Brian Flores on their sideline, let him go. So if you're Mike Tomlin right now, you have to be taking these shots. You have to be I mean, for a long time, I was a defender. And by the way, if he did become available, I know a lot of people will say, well, there's 25 teams out there that would take Mike Tomlin as their coach tomorrow. And my team is one of them. I would take him right now. That's how sad it is. But in that situation, particularly in Pittsburgh, where he is now, with who he has there, I just feel like his messaging is falling on deaf ears. You could tell that the quarterback isn't aligned with his receivers, that his teammates don't really like. Oh, Russell is Russell. He's corny and not everybody likes him. He's an acquired taste. And Tomlin might do a good job of shielding some of that dysfunction from the public. We've seen a lot of players leave Pittsburgh, and then you're like, holy cow, how did Tomlin deal with the likes of AB or Santonio Holmes or whoever it might be, right? It's time. They need a change. They need a change. That message is stale.
Well, or you let it bottom out next year and you draft Arch Manning or whoever.
Oof.
That's where the draft is in Pittsburgh in 2026.
Oof.
Yeah. All right. There's your plan right there. We saw a quick thought here before we get the Cowboys here, Danger.
Oh, yeah.
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 Al Davis hated to pay coaches to the fact where I don't know if Mike Shanahan ever collected on that, but that was in litigation. Same thing for Ralph Wilson. And here you have the Cowboys behind the rest of the NFL in the hiring schedule. Maybe Mike Vrabel would have been a fit. You'll never find out because you just figured this out today. Maybe Ben Johnson would be a fit. Well, you're at least a week behind here. Doesn't mean, Jerry, reach into that pocketbook and write that check for Bill Belichick. Write the biggest gift ever to North Carolina.
Yeah, you're too much. Not happening, pal. Not happening. I guess the length of the new deal was what became the sticking point here, that Jerry probably wanted to offer him, 1, 2, or 3 years, and McCarthy wanted something a little bit more substantial. And he could probably get it, honestly. Like, McCarthy, even if he sat out a year and didn't become a head coach next year, he probably could get it. That's just the Cowboys. That's the Cowboys being the Cowboys. I love that they told, no, you can't interview with the Bears. And they didn't get a deal done, and now he's probably going to interview with the Bears. And by the way, if he becomes the Bears head coach, I might have to watch more soccer. That's how far you've lost me.
Well,
I might have to watch more soccer.
What other Packers could you bring in?
Yeah, well, okay, let's bring in Aaron Rodgers to be the team GM.
David Bacteria might come out of retirement.
Yeah, we need help on that offensive line, so maybe Rodgers can bring Bacteria with him.
I'm sure Rodgers is going to want to get Bacteria involved, but you know what? Bacteria is a guy who has been ravaged the last couple of years by injuries.
Speaking of injuries, and I think this is not a zero for Philadelphia. We mentioned the Eagles. N'Kobe Dean out for the remainder of the postseason, a torn patellar tendon. We learned of that injury. We saw the injury yesterday during the game, and now we've got confirmation that he will be out for the remainder of the postseason. Man, that Philly offensive and defensive line, I mean, you want to talk about mean, physical, and size in the trenches, man. They have it on both sides of the ball. That's a tough offensive and defensive line for the Eagles. We got to get to Ryan Talbot next. Read his work at NewYorkUpstate.com. Also the co-host of the Shout podcast with our buddy Matt Perina. We'll talk more Bills next with Talbot. We'll recap yesterday's win against Denver. Look ahead to Sunday's matchup in the divisional round against the Baltimore Ravens. Next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with
Bills injury report, Ray Davis in concussion protocol, according to head coach Sean McDermott. Alec Anderson, offensive lineman, dealing with a calf injury. Brandon Condrington, his hamstring injury is improving. From the win over Denver, quarterback Josh Allen says he never lost faith in wide receiver Curtis Samuel.
I'd be the first one to say, I'll speak on behalf of Curtis. He probably didn't have the season that he wanted to have. He was dealing with a few things early on and during the middle of the year. But he kept grinding, kept being quiet, and stayed focused. And, I've never lost any sort of trust in him.
Bills and Ravens, 6:30, the kickoff this coming Sunday. We'll talk some Bills football coming up next. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, and the Shout Podcast joining us. Wildcard weekend wrapping up tonight. It's the Vikings and Rams being played in Arizona. The Cowboys part ways with head coach Mike McCarthy. Gene Battaglia on the Sports Leader, the Fan, Rochester.
Top Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the sports bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Curtis, it just feels good for Curtis, right? I feel good for Curtis. I know the locker room does. He's been working so hard all year. He's been dealing, working through some injuries every week, and to come out and do what he did. I really believe it was last week going out there and playing in that game set him up for success this week. Because if you kind of drop yourself back in after being out, whatever it would have been, having not played last week, it's not the same. So I think he gained some confidence from going out there last week.
Bills head coach Sean McDermott on the performance of Curtis Samuel. Big touchdown yesterday, and the Bills win over Denver in the wild card round. Now they look ahead to Sunday. Matchup with the Baltimore Ravens in Orchard Park as we welcome in Ryan Talbot from NewYorkUpstate.com and the Shout Podcast. With Samuel being involved the way he was yesterday, Ryan, it makes you wonder, and we kind of heard this late in the season, the Bills are not showing all their cards here. They saved some of their best for the postseason, and maybe Samuel in that speed is a part of it. Welcome back into the sports bar, buddy.
Hey, thank you very much. And yeah, I think you're spot on. I mean, it's exactly what you alluded to and what the team alluded to. There's still a lot of tricks up the sleeve. Why show everything in the regular season when you're going to need some of this come playoff time? And, you saw Curtis Samuel, the separation ability. That was why he was such a target for the Bills in free agency. You look at Khalil Shakir. It felt like over the last month and a half of the season, the Bills went away from those quick passes to Shakir, which has kind of become a bread and butter in season, almost like let's forget about this play call or this part of it. And sure enough, that was part of what you saw. You saw Kincaid more involved than he had been in some time. Same with Knox, and the list went on. So it's going to be interesting because it's only going to get tougher with this matchup this weekend against Baltimore. And if you win that, you obviously have most likely a showdown with Kansas City, but potentially a home matchup with the Texans.
Yeah, I love when the Bills win a playoff game, Ryan, and you see stats. This is the last time since Thurman Thomas. Like, okay, that was, a 100-yard game there for James Cook. But the question I have is about Ty Johnson and just how we really should just kind of give some kudos here to the Bills front office for finding this guy and re-signing him. And Ryan, I've looked at that the replay a bunch of times. I don't know for the life of me how he kept his feet in bounds there.
Yeah, I don't know. Kept the feet in bounds, be able to get the arms underneath, the hands underneath it to scoop that low ball, especially when the velocity Allen was throwing it with at that last second as the pressure was closing in on him. He's such a good pass catcher, and I'm sure he appealed to the Bills a lot last season. The whole story about the injury, the Jets telling him to get surgery, then they release him, and Bills bring him in for one preseason game, and they see enough there to sign him to the practice squad and eventually gets elevated. And I'm sure the more that he's been with the team, the more that they saw out of him as a pass catcher. You knew that he could block well. Even running the ball, he's been so good. He has the speed to go to the outside, the power to run on the inside of the tackles. And, in a way, down the stretch of the season, he kind of phased out Ray Davis. And you hope the best for Ray Davis, as you mentioned, in the concussion protocol. But Johnson can kind of do a little bit of everything, and he's been a great complement to James Cook.
Ryan, when we think about this matchup coming up on Sunday against the Ravens, and we have the fresh kind of scars from Week 4, we remember what that game was like. I think what a lot of people forget is that the Bills were shorthanded defensively in that game. You were without Milano, you were without Terrell Bernard, you were without Taron Johnson, all three who going into this game should be available for the Buffalo Bills. How much of a difference is that going to make, especially when you consider that Milano and Johnson have plenty of familiarity going up against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry for that matter?
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Both sides are missing some guys. 2 offensive linemen for the Ravens were out in that game. But the 3 players that you mentioned are kind of the heart and soul of the defense. Milano is very familiar. Taron Johnson with the pick 6 in the end zone a few years ago in the playoffs. Everyone remembers that play, but Johnson does a little bit of everything, and then Bernard too. So I think the Bills are going to play a little bit more of their base defense in this game against the Ravens. They're going to have to be stout up front, which they did a great job of against the Denver Broncos. But obviously the Ravens are a completely different beast with the way that they can kind of run those RPOs between Lamar Jackson and Henry, and it's kind of pick your poison, because if you jump down on Henry, Lamar keeps the ball. So the Bills have to have a great game plan in place. I was really encouraged from what I saw, especially from Milano. Milano looked to kind of be running at the speed that I remembered him during, the last few years pre-injury. It felt like he was kind of running through sand or running in mud a little bit early on in his return, but the sideline to sideline, the sack that went for no yards, some of the other plays he made, it looked like he's kind of returning to form. And when you have those 3 players, it's going to help significantly, because the Bills' offense is going to be in a much better spot as well in this rematch.
Yeah, we're talking to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, and the Shout podcast. Overall, Ryan, we know third downs have been a bugaboo, and then that opening drive, hey, an opportunity to get off the field. Oh, they find Cortland Sutton and then the play over the top. But then after that, only allowing 1 third down conversion following that. It's not an answer with just one reason, but what would you point to as some of the reasons why we've seen an improvement here on the third down defense?
Well, you do have to give credit to the Bills' defense, obviously, but the Broncos had the 3rd highest percentage of 3-and-outs in the league going into this game. So, I said something had to give in this match. Either the Bills were going to give up a ton of third downs, or the Broncos were going to be able to stay on the field on third. And we saw it was the Bills kind of winning out in their end, where minus that first drive where they give up the 3rd and 8 and then 2 plays later the deep ball, they were great on third down. And, to credit the Bills, the run defense, they didn't set up a lot of third and very manageables for the Broncos, which I think obviously helps out when it's not 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. If it's 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 and beyond, that makes it very tough, because you almost know for a fact that they're going to have to throw the ball if you're Bo Nix. The screen game, I love the way the Bills came flying in on the screens. They tackled well there. That was another strength that Denver had. So, it was the gap integrity up front, and it was getting off, shedding blocks, and making plays against a great screen team. Those are 2 of the biggest factors, in my opinion.
And after the game, Rasul Douglas had some comments about, the team hearing some of the chatter around the media about their inability to get off the field on third down. It kind of made a big deal out of it. And it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, no, these guys are listening. They are gathering bulletin board material and playing with a little bit of a chip. It's partially why I love that the line switched, and now that the Bills are a 1-point underdog at home to this Ravens team, that they might go into this game, guys like Deion Dawkins, hell, Josh Allen will go into this game with something to prove.
Yeah, they're going to go into the game with something to prove, being the underdogs in terms of the point spread. They can talk about, hey, the week 4, they beat us by 25. I mean, it wasn't close. So they're going to have that extra motivation, that chip on their shoulder. They know they're going to be at home where they're undefeated. It's going to be a different environment for the Ravens. And as dangerous as they are on the ground, if this turns into a shootout and you are able to make Lamar Jackson a little bit more one-dimensional, that's when the turnovers can happen. He did a great job protecting the ball, don't get me wrong, but it's those, if they can't lean heavily on the run, that's exactly what you want the Bills to be able to do, is get them out of that. Then anything can happen in this game. So you look at the offense from that first matchup, too, with Josh Allen and company. They were still figuring things out. I know they were coming off of a few blowout wins. They had the game against Jacksonville, and we saw how bad Jacksonville was, though, this year. They were still trying to figure out, coming into week 4, how do we get these guys all involved? What is Mac Hollins' strength and Keon Coleman's? They didn't have Amari Cooper yet at this point. And, the list kind of goes on. Joe Brady was still figuring things out. And, the other thing, too, is going into that matchup, the Ravens, I don't want to say they were desperate, but they started out slow in the beginning of the year, and they needed that win a lot more than Buffalo did at that point in time.
Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, our guest here. Special teams may have a role in this. You have two kickers that, have had some kind of valleys here in their season, whether it's Tyler Bass or certainly Justin Tucker is not the same Justin Tucker we're used to seeing. But my question is about the Bills special teams, because if it was not for that Jamarcus Ingram falling asleep and missing that assignment, we might have been talking about, hey, that wasn't a bad game for the Bills special teams, whether it was Tyler Bass correctly putting one in the landing zone and it resulted in the kickoff being at the 20, Matt Collins delivering a big hit here. A game like this, Ryan, where it could kind of swing. And then another thing that I liked yesterday, should we entertain Khalil Shakir as the punt returner?
So I'll answer the last part first. I'm going to say no for the last part. As much as I thought he did a good job returning punts, he's too important to the offense. You don't want something to happen there. You don't want him to have to step off of the field for offensive reps because he's winded from a punt return. I really do feel like Codrington has been dynamic at times in that role, some big returns. The speed is there. If he's good to go, I would rather see Codrington back there. Funny as that sounds, he's done a great job this season in terms of handling Buffalo's wins and showing things like that off. Now, if Codrington can't go again, then yeah, Shakir by far is their best answer and solution. As for yesterday's game, you're right. If it wasn't for the fake punt and the Bills not, being able to stop that, just getting over there a second or two too late, we'd be saying how great they were because Tyler Bass was perfect. You want to talk about Ty Johnson averaging almost 30 yards per kickoff on his returns. Obviously, the big hit by Mac Hollins on Marvin Mims. They were solid across the board, but I don't necessarily know how much of that falls on Ingram because, if anything, the Bills should have been alert for the punt, playing that a little bit differently. This is a Sean Payton team. Sean Payton is always known for going in his bag for these trick plays. He did it in a Super Bowl before he had to announce onside kicks. He's done fake punts before. The Bills were kind of asleep at the wheel, and that falls on Smiley. And, Smiley is already on the hot seat. If there's another snafu on special teams during this playoff run, whether it's just next week or if the Bills are able to keep it going, it just doesn't bode well for him. And this has become a weakness in terms of the overall unit, where for the first few years of the Sean McDermott era, that was one of the biggest strengths of this team.
Hey, Ryan, do we have ourselves a memeable moment between Josh Allen and NFL officials? Because I know that a lot of people around the NFL believe that the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes get all the calls. But now you've got the optics of Bill Vinovich going over to Josh Allen and having a little conversation with him there on the sideline, which I just don't remember ever seeing an NFL official do. Did we get clarity on what that was all about?
Yeah, pretty much telling Allen to not complain about certain calls. I guess he was yelling at the officials a little bit about a certain play, and he was kind of told to knock it off a little bit. So that in the moment, I'm sure Allen was heated. But listen, there are calls that were missed by the officials. There was a blatant hold by Surtain yesterday on Dalton Kincaid in the end zone. That official was right back there, and for whatever reason, he didn't catch it, didn't see it, was looking slightly off there. So whether it was that or something different, Allen saw something. He didn't like that it wasn't called, and apparently he was just a little bit too vocal about it.
Yeah, we're talking to Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com, our guest here. Where do you come down on Mac Hollins? I mean, I thought Halloween was in October, right? But, hey, if he's making plays, making big hits like that, wear whatever you want to wear coming into the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the teammates and some of the front office might even build the actual Flintstone mobile if he keeps playing like that, making those types of plays. He can keep wearing that get up, and he can pedal his way in barefoot to the stadium if that's what's going to be. He had the big hit, as we already mentioned on Mims. He had a great catch late in the game, and yeah, at that point the game was out of reach, but it pretty much sealed the game in terms of setting them up for running the clock out, and he did draw that penalty, but I'm sure his teammates will love how fired up he got and, putting his hand on Surtain's helmet, standing over him. He had some moments yesterday that he could have had two personal foul penalties against him, but the teammates love him. He made plays in both phases, and he did a ton of blocking in that game up at the line for James Cook. And the way Cook ran the ball, especially in the first half, you got to tip your cap a little bit to Hollins there. So across the board, he did a lot of really good things for the Bills.
Ryan, when you look at the other divisional matchup between the Chiefs and the Texans, I mean, I think everybody's easily going to say, oh, this is the Chiefs. They're going to obviously beat the Texans. The Texans get by the Chargers, but they didn't look that impressive doing it. Is there anything to the Chiefs having this kind of layover where they haven't played really any meaningful football or haven't been on the field for a few weeks here?
Yeah, there's something to that. I still expect the Chiefs to win that game, but the starters haven't played since Christmas Day. So you're going out there with weeks of, or maybe, I guess Russ is the best way of putting it. I know they practice, but it's not the same as live game action. If they come out slow and, Mahomes a little bit off the mark, maybe they can get a 3-and-out. The Texans can put up some points. Anything can happen at that point. The Texans are going to have to bring their A game, and I don't know if they have enough talent there after getting some decimated with some injuries this year, some serious ones at that, where they're going to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. But when you've been off that long, I do think there's an opportunity maybe for Houston to come in and maybe get out to a fast start, and then anything, like I said, could happen.
Ryan, and of course, you have this other storyline in the NFL, these teams trying to fill vacancy at head coach, and the Patriots have already done that. And my question is about Joe Brady. We know that there were 4 teams that requested permission to talk to Joe Brady. It's hard for me to imagine the Bills blocking that, but haven't heard too much otherwise. Do we know anything? And if so, are there any interviews planned? Because certainly it is a busy time of year for any coach that is still in the postseason.
Yeah, I believe the interviews are supposed to be this week. Obviously, they'd be via Zoom. Thered be some time when he's not necessarily at the facility for work reasons. I mean, you could still do the interview from the facility itself, just off the clock. I don't think it's going to be a distraction. I think he knows that, one, the further the Bills go, the better this looks for him, whether it's this year as a coaching vacancy or even next year. If the Bills get to the Super Bowl, if the Bills win a Super Bowl, he'll be the hottest name next year. If all the positions are filled up and if a team doesn't wait for him. But you also have to look, if I'm Joe Brady, I'm looking at maybe some of these openings more so as just kind of practice for how he comes across in these interviews, how he can get better. Because you look at some of them, and the Saints, I know he has ties there. What's the appeal of going to the Saints? There's no quarterback. The cap salary is awful. I guess the biggest, win for that team would be that the division is going to be up for grabs. Perhaps it was a lot of mediocre play across the board there, but unless there's the right opportunity, I don't necessarily see him springing or jumping at a job. I get that you can go from hot to not very quickly in the NFL, as we saw in Cincinnati with their defensive coordinator going from interviews to unemployed. But as long as he has Josh Allen, I think he's in the spot where he's going to be in the cycle next year if he doesn't go anywhere. This is going to be a good opportunity for him just kind of work on some interviews for the head coaching position, and maybe the right fit comes along. I don't necessarily see it.
Ryan, what are you and Matt working on? What can we check out at Syracuse.com? And what do you have on deck for us here on the Shout podcast as well?
Yeah, multiple shows this week. We'll do our 3 big question episode, perhaps as early as today, where we bring on an insider and they ask a question. We have questions as well there. Matt's lining up some national guests throughout the week to preview this big matchup this weekend in the divisional round. We'll have our staple show Wednesday. We're going to do a preview on Friday and then a show live from Wingnuts with our final thoughts on Saturday. So probably, 5 podcasts minimum this week. Oof. And then over at the site, I'll put up the PFF grades from yesterday, give Bills fans an inkling of, who performed really well. Did it pass the eye test or not in terms of who they thought fared well in this game? And then we'll start really breaking down the matchup that I think anyone that's a football fan at least can't wait for this weekend.
Ryan, keep up the good work there with Matt. Really appreciate your time today. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you got it.
There's Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. You can read his work at Syracuse.com. You can check out the Shop podcast wherever you get your shows.
So in the middle of that interview, and if you missed it, you can just go right now to the website and you listen to chapters, and you can go back to you could do that for anything you might have missed on the show. buddy in there talking about Matthew Smiley. It's like, okay, even if the Bills get to where they need to go, it's this recurring, you're not prepared. Hey, it's the final kick of the game. You have to return this. You're not prepared. Oh, there weren't enough guys on the field. You're not prepared. Whatever the case was yesterday on that fake punt, you weren't prepared. So, Danger, if the Bills are going to make, can I interest you in two names here? Because if the Bills are going to go out and get a new special teams coordinator next offseason, you want somebody, you want the best, right? The NFLPA did a survey. This is dating back to 2023. Top 5 guys. There are 2 guys, because of their coaching regimes have changed there, they should be on the market. One is the guy who was the interim in New Orleans, Darren Rizzi, was their special teams coordinator. Okay. He, you would think, would be available. And then a guy who, well, it's on the street today, as of today, John Fossil with the Dallas Cowboys.
Fossil's intriguing to me. Rizzi, not so much. But yeah, I mean, I don't like that we're already we already have a scapegoat if it goes wrong. Like you know how this goes. If it goes wrong, you've got your scapegoat. Smiley is the scapegoat. That's the change that will happen in the offseason. That will be the sacrifice that needs to be made when there's a thirst for blood. If it doesn't go their way, I hope that they do make it all the way. I hope that they do enough here against the Ravens, and if they were able to get past the Ravens, that we won't be talking about them having to move on from another assistant coach this offseason. And I don't know, and maybe even if they do win it all, they still make that change because there's an opportunity to upgrade there. And sometimes it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't. If you're Sean McDermott, maybe you plug your nose and keep Smiley around if you end up winning it all. If you end up making it to the Super Bowl or winning it all.
Well, it's a team that, it's ready-made, whether it's this year, next year, whenever Josh Allen's career, whenever it ends, they're always going to be in this window. Why would you want to bring in a coach that wants to cut his teeth? I don't have any time for that.
As far as special teams go, for as bad as the fake punt was, and you got to be aware that is coming. I mean, other than that, special teams were awesome yesterday. I mean, Mims is an all-pro returner. He didn't get anything going. Hollins lays him out. Bass was excellent, both in the kicking game and with his field goals. That blemish, the blemishes in special teams just feel like they get magnified because they have the opportunity to shift the game. And in that instance, the fake punt ended up really not hurting the Bills because they forced a punt the next 3 plays.
Right.
Ryan Talbot was great, as always, joining us here in the Sports Bar, talking more Bills. And we'll get to happy hour next here on The Fan. Continue to recap yesterday's win against the Broncos and look ahead to the Baltimore Ravens. It is a Victory Monday. You know how we like to celebrate that here in the Sports Bar. And with more football on the horizon for us, we invite you to come and hang out with us this Friday. We will be live from 3 until 6, broadcasting live from our friends at Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue in the neighborhood of the Arts, where you can score a 4-pack to go for game day of the limited run Leaping Hazy IPA Playoff Edition. Now, it's only available at Three Heads, and they're only available while they last. Get yours while we're live Friday afternoon from 3 until 6. Delicious Three Heads beer, Freddy's wood-fired pizza, and the perfect pregame just, a few days early there. Friday Football Talk Live Playoff Edition. That's happening this Friday, 3 until 6. We'll look for you at Three Heads in the neighborhood of the Arts with The Fan Rochester. Happy hour next. Time for your calls as well. 866-4326, 585-866 for FAN.
You're listening to the Rochester, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester. Sports update.
Running back Ray Davis in concussion protocol. That is the biggest injury concern heading into this week against the Ravens. Alec Anderson, the offensive lineman, dealing with a calf injury. And Braden Codrington still trying to return from that hamstring pull. Bills defense doing a much better job of getting off the field on third down, pleasing the head coach.
Third downs were big in the I think really since that first conversion on that first scoring drive that they had, and you got to get off the field on third down. I thought we were pretty darn good at it. I think we ended up they ended up 2 for 9, so we'll take that.
Bills and Ravens, 6:30 the kickoff this coming Sunday. Baltimore is favored by 1. Tonight it's the wild card game in Arizona between the Vikings and the Rams. The Cowboys part ways with head coach Mike McCarthy. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
And that will do it as the Bills, for the 5th straight season, have won the wild card playoff. They win it 31-7 over the Denver Broncos. And with this victory, the Bills advance to the divisional round where they will host the Baltimore Ravens in a rematch from Week 4.
Touchdown, Ravens! Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen MVP. Why not?
This is what everyone's been waiting for, right? So everyone will be looking forward to it, and it'll be a big challenge for us.
Both these teams are going to score some points.
Mike Danger.
Let's talk a little bit about yesterday's win for the Buffalo Bills as they advanced to the divisional round.
Gene Battaglia.
They won. This is where the bar's at. So at least you can kind of take a deep breath and like, all right, great. We're on to the next one.
Yeah.
It's Victory Monday. What do we do here in the sports bar?
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
I have the answer to what it is we do here in the sports bar on a Victory Monday, a playoff Victory Monday. We kick back, pour ourselves a glass of brown, put our feet up on the console, and enjoy some Italian classical music from Bruno Martino. That's what we do on a Victory Monday in the sports bar here on the Fan, Rochester. Soak it all in, Mafia. You know what we need? All right, I'm just workshopping this in real time now. At this point, I mean, like, if you're new to the show, you're like, what the hell? What are they doing?
What is this?
What are these guys doing? What is this that we're listening to? It's become a tradition here in the sports bar where we play Bruno Martino. It was completely by accident.
It was week 1, Bills win over Arizona, and somehow, some way, Bruno Mars, we were talking about, and you went to hit for Bruno Mars, but that came up. Now, sidebar, we have the number 1 Italian radio show in Rochester, New York.
I think
that would still make it number 1.
Well, just like we like to say, we're Rochester's only local sports talk show.
We are
number one. We're number one, baby.
Woo!
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have this whole other board, a whole other library we would never ever touch in terms of music, and then you just hit the wrong button. You're like, wait a second, this actually kind of works, actually.
Yeah, the vibes were very good that day, and we've kind of rolled with it throughout the course of the season. But what I think we need is a super mix of Bruno Martino. We need a super mix of Bruno Martino, Dandelion. Here's your assignment. Victory Mondays moving forward. And I'm saying Victory Mondays moving forward. I'm confident.
Well,
I think we need game highlights. We worked into Bruno Martino. Little quick highlights, like let's get Mac Hollins flattening Mims. Let's get Josh Allen making that impossible 25-yard throw to Johnson in the back of the end zone. Let's get James Cook hitting pay dirt. Let's get a little mashup, a super mix of Bruno Martino on Victory Mondays. Dan DeLorean, hopefully we have the opportunity to do this a week from today.
I would think there's a good chance. We'll spend all week talking about Bills-Ravens. We are ready for this. If you missed the show earlier today, I can go back and listen. Ryan Talbot, NewYorkUpstate.com. Join us in the 4 o'clock hour. Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News, and Bills Digest. And usually after even a Victory Monday, I know there's some of you there's always like a yeah, but, yeah. What is the yeah but from yesterday? Okay, the first drive.
The yeah but from yesterday is, yeah, but do they have more of that? For me, I think that we've talked about this a little bit through the course of the afternoon, and they talked about it. The Bills talked about it specifically at the end of the season. Hey, some of these games, we know where we are. They're not really meaningful games. We don't want to show everything. We've got some stuff that we've been working on that we aren't going to really show, and I think you saw some of that against the Broncos. They had the ball for better than 2/3 the game yesterday.
See, when they're talking about not showing, like many of us, myself included, like, oh, trick plays or knew something. No, it's using Gilliam Moore in the backfield. It's using the 6 offensive linemen.
It's just Curtis Samuel getting involved.
Yeah, it's just plowing over the Broncos. 41-plus minutes? Hey, kid, Bo Nix, you want to score points, you're going to have less time to do it in. 19, as a matter of fact. Yeah. Holy cow. If they hold on to the ball 41 minutes against Baltimore, danger, they are winning that game.
Correct. And so that's my yeah but. My yeah but for today is, yeah, but do you have more? Because I think you're going to need it. Now, we saw what Baltimore did. Pittsburgh is reeling. That team is bad. It's a bad football team right now. They're a good football team earlier this year. They started off 10-3. They lost their final 5 games, and they didn't even hold a lead once in any of those 5 losses. Pathetic. So Baltimore did what they did. They beat up on a bad team, and they did it in fairly convincing fashion. I mean, they had Pittsburgh fooled for most of Saturday night. They're going to come in, and we're all going to think about the Week 4 matchup, and it was one-sided. Week 4, there's no way around it. It was a one-sided win. The Ravens out-physicaled the Bills. They had their way. We all remember the Derrick Henry long rushing touchdown. We remember the botched trick play where the Bills felt like they might be able to get back in the game, and they weren't able to get back in the game. The thing that a lot of us, I think, forget is who was actually not on the field for the Bills in that game, specifically on defense. And I think it matters. I don't think it's a 0 when you consider that the Bills were without Matt Milano. They were without Taron Johnson that game. They were without Terrell Bernard that game.
Taylor Rapp goes out after 19 snaps in that game, too.
Correct.
So you were with Cole Bishop in that position, and they were shorthanded for sure, Danger. And the thing about that loss, even though you're shorthanded, all these Bills losses here in the McDermott-Allen era, usually it's a play here, a play there. It goes either way. Maybe the Bills would have won. No. You got your butts kicked. That was a butt whooping from the get-go, from the first one. So pop on that tape. And a funny thing happened this week here, Danger, and that is, well, the line opened up with the Bills being favored by 1. Vegas has flipped that.
Yeah, here's what I like about where the Bills are right now going into this game. I really believe they are hearing the external chatter, whether it is Josh Allen being second-team All-Pro or Deion Dawkins not getting the Pro Bowl or not getting the All-Pro nod. Lamar Jackson getting the first-team All-Pro. You hear Rasul Douglas after the game yesterday, as he's being interviewed, saying, yeah, we heard. What was it all you were saying about us not being able to get off on third down? Well, how do we do today? Ed, come over here. Ed Oliver, come over here. How do we do today on third down? They're taking it personally. They're playing with a chip. And now to see Vegas flip the line from the Bills being favored by 1 point to the Ravens being favored by 1 point, I love how that presents for the Buffalo Bills.
I would just, if I'm Sean McDermott or any of the coordinators, anybody, whenever you're going up, he's not Lamar Jackson. He's the MVP, Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Just like you're going to hear that too.
Yeah, go a little passive-aggressive.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, just tweak him a little bit. Mm-hmm. You're always welcome to join us at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Matt from the city. What's up, Matt?
What's up, fellas? Happy Victory Monday to you.
Yes, sir.
I need your help here a little bit. And I don't know if you caught it on First Take today, or maybe you saw the clips of it circulating online with our buddy Dano and Stephen A. talking about this upcoming matchup with the Bills and Ravens. Did you guys see that today?
I didn't get a chance to see it. It didn't cross my feed yet.
No, so let me give you the quick synopsis. So, they're previewing the matchup, right? And Dano was basically saying if the Bills have a carbon copy performance against the Ravens, they will win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephen A. and Shannon Sharp were dead set on the fact that they needed to see more out of the Bills in order for that to be true, in order for them to beat the Ravens. Is that a shtick? Are we for real, or what's going on there, do you think?
All right. So, Matt, let me first answer your question.
You gave the answer in your
I mean, Matt, is it a shtick? Yeah, in a way, it is a shtick. I mean, when you look, we've had this conversation on the air before. In the world of sports talk and sports media, takes are currency. And Stephen A. happens to have a lot of takes. Therefore, he is the highest paid employee at ESPN. So it's not necessarily about what he believes is right or wrong versus what exactly is going to be the most entertaining for those who are watching, or what's going to get people riled up, what's going to split an audience. And that's what that kind of take does. It gets everybody that follows the Bills pissed off, and everybody that follows the Ravens going, yeah, absolutely. So it's a great take in that it splits an audience, but it's not what we would be like. Oh, no, of course not. It's not grounded in reality. It's more about the entertainment value behind what.
So I guess I'd love to get to the point in my life where I guess I could say things and then nobody questions your credibility whatsoever.
Well, I mean, you got to throw
taking the planet.
Look,
this 41 minutes of time.
It's a larger conversation in sports media, Matt. That a lot of people throw their credibility. What credibility? I mean, Stephen A. used to be a journalist. He used to be a newspaper reporter, right?
So was Skip Bayless,
right.
too. Like, these guys, they're showmen. So, like, do we want to be showmen on this show? No, we want to be entertaining, but I don't want to get to the point where I'm going to just not tell you exactly what I want to think so I can split the audience or whatever.
Well, there's a lot of people, too. And Matt, thank you so much for calling and bringing that up. I didn't see that, but now that we're talking about it, it brings up something that we're seeing online right now on our own Twitter feed. This is unbelievable to me. Like, people are just making things up.
I don't want to even bring this up because somebody's going to half hear this. I don't want to get dragged
right.
into this.
People, well, that's, I guess, people make things up, or they half listen, or they half hear something. And this specifically has to do with somebody from the Buffalo Bills who never speaks to the media. We never hear from this. Like, if you got this guy to say anything about any of his opponents, then I think everybody that follows the Bills or covers the Bills would be like, what's your secret? Because we can't get that guy to talk ever.
Yeah, there is something going on. We're going to say it's like false, that this player came on our show today and said these derogatory things about the Baltimore Ravens. Nobody's fact checking.
Have you guys heard any Bills on our show today?
No,
I haven't. We haven't interviewed any of them. So, but that's to Matt's bigger point. I mean, that's kind of the world of sports media right now. It's become the wild, wild west.
Hey, timeout, Danger. Bills win this game. It's only going to get worse because let's just say Kansas City. Or you get to the big Super Bowl, but then, hey, you got another team, and this is the city, and everybody that couldn't do it. You're going to have some blinders, folks. You're going to have, if it upsets you, if I'm upsetting you, then turn it off. You honestly, you shouldn't say that in talk radio, but if somebody like that is like, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't have to consume everything.
Now, I'm kind of fascinated, and I want to dig a little bit deeper into what Dan Orlovsky was debating with Stephen A. and Shannon, because what could they possibly need to see more of on defense? I mean, against the Ravens, we haven't seen it because we didn't see it earlier this year, but I do believe that not having Milano, Johnson, and Bernard on the field was a major factor for that defense underperforming against the Ravens.
All right, so I didn't hear this, okay, but I think the take from Orlovsky, if that's what's correct, hey, if they hold on the ball for 41 minutes and are doing this, nobody's going to beat them. It could just be as simple as, these opponents are going to be much more difficult. The Broncos are a good team. The Ravens are a potential Super Bowl team. Until the Bills actually do it, I'm not going to go there.
Fair.
And that's a fair point.
Mm-hmm. And because let's face it, They, just like us, we've seen this movie before, and it doesn't always end well for the Buffalo Bills. It hasn't the last few years. But maybe this is different. Maybe this year is different.
Oh, by the way, the Bills beat the Ravens in this round.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, like
we remember that.
Yeah, that was Justin Tucker. What, he missed 3 field goals that night?
That was the COVID game.
Yeah, well, that was Taron Johnson, the pick 6.
Right.
Tight game.
And they've
busted
beaten
open.
Baltimore in Baltimore. They've beaten them in Orchard Park. They've beaten them in the playoffs. They've lost to them in both situations as well.
They haven't played him with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry going back to the days of the Titans. That's why this is different.
It is different.
Yeah.
But I do think that to just blindly compare this upcoming matchup to what they were in Week 4, they're going to be potentially without Zay Flowers. That's not a nothing. And we're going to have our full defense supposedly healthy by the time we get on the field on Sunday. So it's going to be great no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
You want the outcome, of course, to be a win, and you want to believe that what I like about where they are is what we were talking about earlier. The fact that it does appear that they're collecting notes, that they're taking notes, that they're holding onto their receipts, and they're going to use it as fuel, which I love, to fuel their performance and to play with a chip on their shoulder. Oh, we're not favored at home against this team? Okay. Oh, I'm not going to win the MVP because I'm not first team All-Pro at quarterback? Okay. F-E-A. If F-E-A becomes like a chant. Instead of MVP, we're chanting F-E-A.
Yeah. F-E-A.
Why not?
Boy, it just kind of fits. The best things start viral, Danger. It's kind of, gosh, Chris writing in. Danger, we here at 95.7 The Fan, for somebody saying about this, we should sue for punitive damages.
Oh, yes, I'm going to sue everybody in Baltimore for punitive damages using our name in a way that they didn't fact-check anything. And then when I went to call them, John Harbaugh. He was very mean to me when I called him, and I got him on the phone, and he threw me down the stairs, and I broke my glasses, and I fell on my ass pipe. And I'm going to sue John Harbaugh for punitive damages, and the Baltimore Ravens, Jason LaCanfora, I'm going to sue him too. I'm suing everybody.
What is Jason LaCanfora?
He's in Baltimore. I'm going to sue Jason LaCanfora. He's very mean to me.
What about P.J. Glasser?
No, P.J. Glasser. I'm suing him too. I listened to P.J. Glasser in the Odyssey app, and when the Odyssey app, it gave me his bets, and I lost all my bets, and I'm going to sue him because he gave me bad advice, and now I'm going to sue him for punitive damages too. Everybody. Suing everybody. I don't like the Ravens. Derrick Henry ran over me, running 20 miles an hour. I fell on my ass pipe, and it hurt. It hurt me really bad. Oh, I'm rubbing it right now. Oh.
He's just setting me up so I can knock him down. Thanks for listening, Chris. Appreciate you, buddy.
I don't know why that still makes me laugh.
Because we're 12.
That's it. No, actually, you're 50. Congratulations,
No.
Mike Danger.
Okay. Was that what a 50-year-old's supposed to act like? Because I don't know. I think I still act like I'm 12. I want to feel like I'm 12. Thank you, Gino. Yeah, it was a fun weekend. And they're like, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for your birthday? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? I'm like, I am good if we just watch football and eat and drink all weekend. And that's pretty much what I did. I mean, we ordered in a pizza on Saturday. I threw some steaks on the egg on Sunday, invited the family over, and we ate and drank like kings and watched football. Successful 50th birthday. I'm excited about it.
That's perfect.
Oh, and it continues tonight, by the way. Yeah, tonight, there's wings in my future. There's cheap beer in my future. There's friends and family in my future as we watch the wild card weekend come to a close in Glendale, which still feels weird, man. They're showing the stadium in Glendale, and it's decked out in Rams colors everywhere. It's a Rams home game, but it's red.
Yeah,
everything's red.
It's I don't know how that's going to look. Hopefully that gets kind of covered up there, but seriously, PJ did hit on winners there.
Oh, no, yeah, he was great.
That stat, there's two, the one that's stuck in your head, the one that's stuck in my head, the fact that teams that missed the playoffs and then go on the road in the playoffs the following year as a favorite, they're now 1-15.
Chargers
lost. And then, oops, who's in this category tonight?
Vikings.
Minnesota's favored by 2.5
yeah.
over the Rams. Which way does this go? Do the Rams kind of rise up and do this for L.A.? Because certainly the Chargers didn't do that, or has it just been such a distracting week here?
The NFL loves themselves a good story, don't they? You know, the narrative is there. There's a lot weighing on the minds of this team. They're not playing in their home stadium. Yeah, I think the Rams get it done tonight. I can't root for the Vikings. Man, I can't root for the Vikings. How pathetic am I that I was excited that Green Bay lost? I'm like, yes, Green Bay sucks. Oh, I got to show you. Can I show you something in real time? Get your reaction on the air in real time?
Okay.
So this is not a Chicago Bears show, but by now y'all kind of know. Yes, I'm here. I talk about the Bills. I want the Bills to win. I'm going to share everything we've learned about the Bills.
And ergo, you hate the Packers. So.
I hate the Packers. Hate the Packers. My daughter got me a birthday card, and she made some modifications to this birthday card. I wanted to share the birthday card with you, Gino. If you can, let me see if I can pull this up for you. Eric, just hit play on that right there. You can kind of describe it as you go.
All right. Dad, it's your birthday. Bear down. Opening up. out of the bear's mouth, Green Bay sucks.
Yeah. So the card is a giant bear, and it's supposed to be a funny card, but on the front of the card, she crossed off what it said. Dad, it's your birthday. She changed what it said, and it says bear down, and it's this picture of a giant bear wearing a bow tie. It's supposed to be funny, and when it's a pop-up card, when you open it up, whatever it said, whatever the bear was supposed to say, it's out of its mouth comes Green Bay sucks. It's my daughter. She knows me. That actually made me laugh on my birthday yesterday. So yeah, I was excited about that, and I can't root for Minnesota tonight, man. Come on. I just can't do it.
No, you're not going to, some of your friends from back home, they're not going to be excited about this?
Oh, no, they're worried about me, too, because I've been a Bears fan my whole life, and now they're like, we don't know. You've been a Bears fan your whole life? That's a long time now, and we're worried about your mental health. I'd be worried, too. Let's get to a round of shots next, Gino.
Hi, my name is Gene. I refuse to get sucked in by the Buffalo Sabres ever again.
You fell for it, didn't you? You sucker.
The funny part was, I, watching this, actually was on the air and, doing Fisher basketball. Oh, they're up 2-0. And then you go back later tonight, go, what?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Oh,
just disgusting.
Oh, anybody went to the game Saturday. My apologies there. We'll get you set up for what's going to happen next Monday night. The NBA playing tonight where it might surprise you. And then, finally in Philadelphia today, a reversal here. Some people are upset about this.
Okay, we're going to get to that and more next. We got a round of shots. We have time for your calls before we close up shop at 6 as well. If you want to join us for last call, you can have the final say. 585-866-4FAN. 866-4326.
update.
Running back Ray Davis of the Bills in concussion protocol. Alec Anderson, offensive lineman, he's dealing with a calf injury. And Brandon Codrington has that hamstring pull. He is improving. That's your injury update. From the win over Denver, Bills quarterback Josh Allen says he's never lost faith in wide receiver Curtis Samuel.
I'd be the first one to say, I'll speak on behalf of Curtis. He probably didn't have the season that he wanted to have. He was dealing with a few things early on and during the middle of the year. But he kept grinding, kept being quiet, and stayed focused. And, I've never lost any sort of trust in him.
Bills and Ravens, 6:30 for the kickoff this coming Sunday here on The Fan. Wildcard weekend wraps up tonight. It's the Vikings and Rams in a game that's being played in Arizona. The Cowboys today parting ways with head coach Mike McCarthy. Syracuse basketball on the hardwood tomorrow night when they host Louisville. Gee Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Got a smart speaker at home? Listen to the sports leader, The Fan Rochester at home, by asking it to play 95.7 The Fan.
Happy hour continues on the Fan Rochester. Time to get to a round of shots.
Yeah, Ohio State opened as a 9.5-point favorite in the national championship game against Notre Dame. Look, if that holds, it's going to be the second highest spread ever in a football championship game in college recent history. Not on the side of the Irish here. In 2022, Georgia was favored by 13.5 over TCU. Remember what happened that night? 65-7 was the final. Also in 2020, Alabama was favored by 9.5 over Ohio State. Alabama won that game 52-24. Of course, the national championship game coming up next Monday night.
I really don't care as long as Marcus Freeman is on the sidelines of the Chicago Bears next year. I'll be happy. That's really all I care about at this point.
You will get Pete Carroll, and you will like that.
Damn it, Gene. No.
Yes.
No, I don't want Mike McCarthy is going to force me to become a bigger soccer fan. No.
Would you rather have Pete Carroll and Mike McCarthy?
Carroll.
Yeah. No, you have Mike McCarthy. I'd be worried about you. The AHL standings tight as ever following a split over the weekend. Yes, the Amherst had their 7-game winning streak end in Syracuse Saturday. The team remains in first place of the AHL North. Rochester 1 point ahead of Cleveland, 2 points ahead of Laval, 6 ahead of Toronto. This weekend features 3 games in less than 72 hours. Good times. Friday against Lehigh Valley at home, then at Lehigh Valley Saturday, and then at the defending Calder Cup champion Hershey Bears Sunday at 5:05. We'll talk to head coach Mike Leone tomorrow at 4:25.
I would imagine this is what they would call a tough stretch of the schedule, right? This is a little bit of a challenge here with Hershey on the road.
That sucks.
You have to do a home against Lehigh, and Friday, Saturday, Sunday with Hershey being the cherry on top of the Sunday. If we're going to talk about Hershey, oh my God, that's a rough stretch. Looking forward to our conversation with Leone tomorrow.
Look, if you got sucked in by the Sabres, you're not
Shame
alone.
on you.
Yeah, shame on me. After beating Washington and Ottawa last week, Buffalo found themselves up 2-0 to Seattle in the second at home. That's when they played a period that head coach Lindy Ruff called embarrassing. And in a year of embarrassing moments, that's saying something. A 2-0 lead turned into a 6-2 defeat. Buffalo has now blown 15 leads this season. That's tied with Chicago for the most in the league.
Hold on a second. Chicago is not good. It's not a good team.
No.
Okay, just making sure.
No, and ergo. The Kraken now 4-0 all-time in Buffalo. Sabres back on Wednesday night against Carolina. 6 o'clock, that early start to accommodate national television. It'll be on TNT.
It's one of these few moments where I'm like, oh, I'm proud I'm on Fubo and I don't have TNT. Thank goodness. I don't have to subject myself to that. It's not even an option.
Well, you can listen here on the Fan Rochester.
Yeah,
we will have it.
6 o'clock, but listen anyways.
In terms of sporting events that when they come around every year, I'm like, wait a second, that's going on now. May I nominate the Australian Open? Yes, It was Jessica Pegula advancing in the first round. That was played at 1 a.m. Eastern. Just, how many hours ago here. Pegula wrote L.A. and drew a love heart in the lens after her 6-3, 6-0 win. The defending champs are Aryna Sabalenka and Jannik Sinner.
Okay.
Both L.A. NBA teams are home tonight. Now, remember, the Clippers have their own arena. The Lakers hosting San Antonio. The Clippers hosting Miami. Interesting considering they moved the L.A. Rams game.
Do we have any kind of updates today on the fires and how contained they are? I mean, we're not a news program, so we shouldn't speculate as to how things are going. But yeah, it is kind of funny that the NBA is just kind of plowing through their schedule and the teams are playing, but I don't know the geography there well enough to know exactly where the arenas are in proximity to where the wildfires are. I imagine that playing outdoors would be a problem if air quality is an issue, and the way it looked, at least, it looked like air quality would be an issue. If we're going to just quickly talk NBA, can I share a stat that lives rent-free in my head right now?
Lots of things live rent-free in your head, but go ahead.
This statistic, Gino, this NBA statistic is my favorite thing that I've seen around the NBA so far this year. Right now in the NBA this season, for 3-player lineups, leading the league in for a 3-player lineup from the New York Knicks with 1,042 minutes, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson. Number 2 on the list with 959 minutes, OG Anunoby, Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson. Number 3 on the list, 958 minutes, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson. Number 4, don't worry, number 4 on the list, 921 minutes, Karl Towns, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges. The top 7 3-man lineups in the NBA are occupied by the New York Knicks.
So what you're saying is Tibbs doesn't like to go 7 or 8 deep.
I'm saying Tibbs plays his guys and he grinds them to a pulp. Now, I know that they don't have a championship to show for it, but if you're going to root for an NBA team, if you're like me and you can't stand the notion of load management or he needs a night off, I love that. I'm becoming a Knicks fan right before your very eyes because that is what I want to see. I want to know, like, okay, not only are you guys spectacular at what you do, but you care. You want to be out there. You want to play, and you have a coach that's pushing you, and you might not like it, but you do it anyways. They have the top 7 3-player lineups in the NBA. He grinds these guys, and I absolutely love it. And if the rest of the NBA followed that model, I have a feeling you would get more eyeballs on your product.
I think if I am going to be in charge of NBA PR, I would just say we need to highlight the positives in this league. Cleveland, Oklahoma City, they both play great brands of basketball. The Knicks are a watchable product, so too are the Celtics. But when you're talking about your media partners, Danger, and we're just focused on LeBron and what's happening with the Lakers half the time, or, you know, this goes back to the Brooklyn for whatever reason. We're all fascinated and like, oh, and Kevin Garnett and Phoenix. I don't care. They're not good. Don't waste my time with a team that's 500. So yes, there are some good things in the league. It's just they have a PR problem. Sticking with the Knicks, by the way, home against Detroit tonight, where you can see all those players get
they're the best. I mean, if you really want, I mean, I just love that he works them, he gets them out there, and that they play the brand that they play. I think it's a lot of fun. I think that's what the league needs to be more like.
So this came out of nowhere. The 76ers decided, no, they're not going to build the $1.3 billion stadium in downtown Philadelphia. Instead, they're going to partner now with the with the Comcast and with the Flyers and build one right next door. It's surprising because this team had just received approval from City Council, and there were some that were upset about it. Said one city council member who supported the downtown development, "I'm so livid right now, I don't even know what to do. I felt like I was used as a pawn."
In politics?
No.
You mean that happens in politics? People get used? Stop. What?
So remember, the first thing was like, we're going to move to New Jersey. Oh, go ahead. Nobody's going to follow you. Okay, we're going to move downtown. And maybe it was they were never really serious about this project. I guess there were a lot of questions about it.
All right, but the end result is the Sixers and the Flyers are getting a new arena.
2031.
2031.
Because, I don't know. The other one, you know, you're getting old when, oh my gosh, this will be the 3rd arena in my lifetime.
You remember the Spectrum?
Yeah.
The Spectrum's still there, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it? No.
Did they tear that down?
It's got to be long gone.
Did you laugh like I did on Saturday afternoon?
Yes, the Astrodome.
When you see how small the Astrodome is next to NRG Stadium? Like, you see it next to NRG Stadium, I'm like, that's the Astrodome, when we were growing up, that was the mecca of all sports. That was like the grandest of the grand in terms of dome stadiums. It's still there, and it's small compared to NRG Stadium.
I would just ask, and I know part of it was maybe because it was used during Katrina or whatever, but why is the Astrodome still there? What purpose does it
They
serve?
probably use it for conventions and
No, I don't think anything.
They don't use it for anything? They got to use it for something. They got to use it for like, is it like an expo and convention center or something like that? Hey, we're going to do the Greater Houston Boat Show is in the Astrodome. Like, that's got to be what they're using it for. More than anything, I would imagine that's what. Because you would tear it down if it wasn't for that. I mean, what else would keep it there? Is it some sort of historical monument at this point?
Yeah, no, there's been other development plans. Nothing. Like literally nothing. It's just been kind of sitting there.
Wow. Yeah, it's a relic. I just laughed at how small it was compared to NRG Stadium. And that you watch a game in Houston and you when you see the larger picture, it's like, whoa, that is there's a reason why they host Super Bowls and Final Fours. It's a big, big venue.
Last time it was used for any sporting event, there was a women's professional football league in 2006.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, we got to look into it. I bet you they're using it for like boat shows or the auto show or something like that.
I'll look into it. If somebody knows exactly, just let us know too here. Finally, walking into Highmark Stadium wearing a Fred Flintstone costume.
Yeah.
Or do we call it a toga or whatever? Anyways.
No, Party City's out of business everywhere. He probably got it like half price. Just go ahead and pick up that Fred Flintstone costume.
Of course, bare feet too. If you're going
have to.
Yeah, like that's it. It fits. We're talking about Bills wide receiver Mac Hollins. As long as Hollins keeps delivering hits like the one he did yesterday on Marvin Mims, wherever what the heck you want.
That's right. I look, you kind of looked at me like when I said, is he the most thirsty Buffalo Bill of all time? And I know people are going to be like, what do you mean thirsty? I'm like, nobody's going to say anything about it because they win and he plays well, but he's drawing a lot of attention on himself.
The answer, because technically he was here a full year, I would go with T.O.
Yeah.
T.O.
When he was here, was he that way as well? Was he that flamboyant with – I mean –
No, he is the only player, Danger, that there was a bodyguard right outside of his locker. You couldn't approach him.
So he was always protected.
Always protected.
That's funny. I'm not saying that to be critical of Holland's gig. Like I think he's great. I love it. I think it's awesome that he shows up barefoot and he's, dressing like the mad scientist one week and Fred Flintstone the next, and he's doing his viral hacks on his TikTok page and doing little science experiments and everything. I think it's all fun. And he's got a big platform, and he's doing what he should do with that platform. He's expanding his brand, as they say.
Well, speaking of thirsty ex-Buffalo Bills, okay, this is from 28 minutes ago. Ryan Fitzpatrick on his social feeds. A picture of him. You don't see his face, but you know it's him combing his chest hair.
He's doing it.
That means he's going to do it.
He's doing it. We talked about this last week. We were trying to figure out, all right, if you're going to, who's leading the charge? Well, we got greatness on Sunday, right? And now it's Fitz. Like, who else can you bring out? It's got to be Fitz.
But he does it. Like, he comes out in a trench coat, and then he just kind of takes it off, and he's bare-chested, ready to go, right?
Oh, no question. Shirtless. He's coming out shirtless, and that's why the hairbrushing is happening, right? I mean, you get Kyle Williams on Sunday, and you were there, I wasn't, but I imagine that I heard it during the broadcast. You could hear it, and it was like, okay, he's got him fired up. Fitz is going to go absolutely berserk. Yeah. That's got to happen. When do we get that announcement? Do we find out midweek?
I would think midweek. Okay. Along with what uniform they're going to wear, all that stuff gets us all fired up. Mm-hmm. There would be a flyover or something like that.
Yeah, it's great. Big win. The Bills get over on the Broncos 31-7, and now host the Ravens. And of course, throughout the course of the week, you can count on us to give you all of the pregame coverage. Matt Perino will be joining us tomorrow at 3:25 as he does every Tuesday. from the Syracuse Post-Standard. We'll get his thoughts, not just on the win yesterday, but we'll look ahead to this Ravens matchup coming up on Sunday.
Yeah. Time for your calls here. 866-4FAN, 866-4326.
You're listening to the Sports Bar. Rochester.
Gino and I excited to announce that it'll be another Friday Football Talk Live, a playoff edition coming up this Friday from 3 until 6. The Sports Bar broadcasting live from Three Heads Brewing on Atlantic Avenue in the neighborhood of the arts. We will be there live. You can score a 4-pack to go for game day of the limited edition, the limited run Leaping Hazy IPA playoff edition. It's only available at Three Heads, and it's only available while they last. We encourage you to stop out and pick some up while we're there live from 3 until 6. We'll have Freddy's Wood-Fired Pizza as well. Just consider it your perfect pregame a couple days before kickoff there on Sunday as we talk Buffalo Bills live from Three Heads. Friday Football Talk Live playoff edition. That's coming up this Friday, 3 to 6 at Three Heads with the Fan.
Yeah, as tomorrow on the show, Matt Perino, Syracuse Post-Standard, will be stopping by. Michael F. Florio, yes, he's a fantasy guy, but Bills report, he says he's coming in for this round.
Oh, really?
Well, if his wife was going to let him. So we'll see that.
If his wife was going to let him?
Or the boss, yeah.
If the boss was going to let him,
So
or
we'll
his
find
wife?
Well,
Same,
one and the same.
All in the same.
One and the same.
Okay.
Michael Leone, head coach of the Rochester Americans, stopping by.
Yeah, you know what? The Amherst got a little tough stretch ahead of them here with Lehigh Valley and Hershey on the docket for this weekend, and they just get their 7-game win streak snapped against Syracuse this last weekend. Good to catch up with the coach. He'll be stopping by tomorrow at his normal time, Tuesdays, right around 4:30. If you missed anything from today's show, we invite you to check us out in the free-to-download Odyssey app. That's AUDACY. In the app, you can go back and listen to any part of the show you may have missed with Rewind. You can also find us in podcast form wherever you get your shows. Just search out the Sports Bar, and you'll find all of our guest appearances and shows listed for you right there. Big thank you to everybody who sought us out on YouTube. Our YouTube channel, The Fan Rochester. Temperature's still cold in the studio. Gino shed the knit cap for today's show. You can watch along to the Sports Bar every single afternoon from 3 until 6. We're also streaming on Twitch at The Fan Rochester as well. Have a great night. We'll talk to you again tomorrow starting at 3 o'clock. JR Sport Brief next on The Fan.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and